And 4:05.
Hear ye, hear ye. The
I give you a
last
minute warning.
session of the goal setting, overdue session, will now commence.
All right. We'll get started now then. Daryl's in the, he didn't want to give you the minute that I told you you had, but are we, by the way, we're getting recording?
He started it for sure.
Okay, we're good. All right. What's that?
All our secrets are on.
That happens every time. Thank you everyone for being here. I think everyone knows why we're here. We've got the rest of the goal setting doc. Amy could not be here tonight. She is sick. So we'll miss her. Very much so. Jen said, she pointed out we were about 2C is where we stopped off at. So the plan is we'll go through the rest of this, make it through. We got a few last closing things just to make sure we know kind of what we got for priorities that we're looking on for this year for our committee meetings. Make sure we've got everything covered. Not everything, everything always changes. But otherwise, does anybody have any last pressing things or other items want to make sure we cover?
You're saying goal to number C, Waterloo objective?
Does that sound right, Jen?
Yeah, I think where we left off is under goal 2, deliver responsible local government, and under item C2. Continue to collaborate with you and I to address public safety. Let me back up a second and do a little bit of a reminder. So as we go through the document, the yellow is where multiple council members would have said, hey, I want to talk about it, or I want to modify it or something. And so nothing's been done. This is the original, but we highlighted it just to talk about. Green is something that we've tried to make some modern, modest adjustments to. And then blue is something new, correct? So.
Yep. And then the way we'll keep doing it as we have been doing it, unless anyone feels otherwise, but where when we come to the item, we'll read it, look at it quick, and then we'll just do a thumbs up. If there's at least 4 people that want to look at it to discuss it, we'll open it up. And obviously there's some gray area there, but otherwise try to keep everything moving through, and I'll try to, I skim through it and try to remember who all submitted which items in case come to yours and don't remember it, but that work for everyone? Okay.
So C2A, continue to collaborate with you and I to address public safety, parking, College Hill neighborhood, equitable payment of city services, sharing of facilities, and elimination of duplicated governmental services.
I don't remember who called this one out.
Been a while, so I don't remember any of them.
Which one do you? Do you remember what for?
I think just the one thing was the anticipation of the collaboration with you and I and the financial piece of that collaborating. And I think maybe you and I, or Ron and I, thought that would be something that would potentially still be an annual, or at least an ongoing request.
You're talking about donating money to the university?
Yeah,
I would be strongly opposed to continuing any contributions. They're a tax receiving entity just like others. And I don't see that we should give our tax revenue to Cedar Falls citizens. Basically, we're giving, money from everybody to the dome or whatever project, because we got plenty of things on our unfunded list that should be attended to. And we see that you and I's fundraising blew right past their goal, and we're raising the goal by 100 million. So I don't know that we need to contribute to that when we got things that we need to do in our house. I mean, it might feel good that we give to you and I, but we could coordinate in other things, traffic control for the dome, all sorts of other things we can do. But as far as just handing them a check, cash, $1 million, a couple million, I don't see that benefiting the citizens to any huge extent. That you could measure it and say, okay, here's what we got back for $1 million donation to you. I mean, that's kind of the hard facts of how I see it. So that's my thought.
And just check with for this item, were you kind of proposing adding something about that or just highlighting it for?
Just highlighting the discussion.
Okay, well, if anyone doesn't have any proposed changes or anything to it,
For this item, it's not as much touching on that.
I didn't know what,
Yeah, I think we're already, because of contractual obligations, in for what we've already agreed to, right? We're not gonna be able to repeal that back off of that 3 million or 2.5. I think it's 3 now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's,
continue
for clarity though, there is no contract yet. The
For that.
council has not. approved
still
the
working on
contract
finalizing the
Correct.
contract.
this year's or what,
For
or
any of it.
any of the 3 million?
Correct.
It's in the CIP, right?
It is in the.
It's budgeted, it's all in there, it's just the contract hasn't been finalized yet.
If I had my druthers, I would level out the contribution for fiscal 26 and 27. It shows 1.25 million and then 500,000 for 27.
I'm gonna just hold us off there, we're not discussing that right now
Okay,
in this,
that
but
was brought up, so
yeah,
Look for the goal sheet.
so, yeah, so for this goal item, is there anything we're recommending for any changes? Okay.
all right.
So 2C, continue to coordinate the development of new city open field recreational uses with UNI to minimize purchase of additional land. This approach will allow city funds to be used for site development.
This one just said, are we doing this?
We have in the past. We had a big 2080 agreement with the city, the school district, and UNI on the development of the wetland detention ponds, the Robinson Dresser Field, and the practice fields all up there was a 2080 agreement. And then probably the latest one would be between the city, the school, and the city on the tennis courts. So
Are those ponds our property?
ponds are our property.
But there's a agreement on how they're taken care of, right, Ron?
How they're taken care of and how they use them for classes and recreational uses.
You know, they've got somebody swept out a hockey court on one of those ponds down there. So went for a walk there the other day. It's like, wow.
I'll get it melt this week.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, would not recommend to be out there this week.
Slushy.
Great.
Any proposes, changes for it or anything?
Item 3A, assist Cedar Falls Community School District with infrastructure improvements that create parking areas, joint city schools, playground, and building expansion areas.
Everybody have their initial write-up with them so they can advocate for.
I know I don't think I don't know if I picked anything out. And if I did, remind me.
Yeah, you didn't really have- Mhm.
I'm here for them.
I know quite a few of these were called out just because people had a question on it or wanted to emphasize it. So if nobody has any feelings on them, we can just keep moving.
And myself again and paying millions to another taxpaying entity, a tax receiving entity. They can be flushed with my bread.
What you have to. Is there any recommended changes to this though, other than just discussion on future discussion on what projects we fund and those types of things?
You just asked if there was any questions or additions, subtractions.
Anything we're looking to change with this item or?
I think we collaborate already, so I don't think we can make any changes with that. I think playground, joint usage, things like that, you know, they already give us hours after school. That's a good thing. When we're paying money, it's for something that's a city need. We're not bailing them out, as it were, because they are taxing. It's crazy how high their rate is compared to ours, so we just want to be cognizant of that, but there's no reason to change course on this. We continue to provide a benefit for our citizens.
As long as we got the 2080 agreements in place that we get good portion of the time for the facility and not be 3 and 4 in the morning or something where Your attendance.
Just the throwaway hours.
Gil will be there. I know.
Your speedo.
Well,
Is that on record?
What'd you say?
For the record, he did not confirm that,
no,
but, okay. All right, anything else for that item? All right, moving on.
3F, participate in a community-wide equity committee.
I also highlighted this one. Are we doing this?
We do.
Um,
So, the school district and both at the county level have equity committees that we sit on.
Is that Chelsea or?
Yes.
That was a big part of the
The racial equity
racial equity task force.
recommendations.
Great.
Anything else for that?
Rather, this is my personal bent, the consideration here isn't to get into the weeds on what is right. I think we're all targeting the same thing. The wording on it doesn't sit well with me. I would prefer that we have equality above equity because of everything, the connotation that comes with that movement lately. If we steer clear of the political unrest around the word equity, can we still get equality by changing that verbiage? We still have the same target.
I have no, it's just my 2 cents. It's not the same. I have no wish to change the verbiage because they are not the same. So just my 2 cents on that.
I would argue by bringing up the conversation, we're making, that makes it a political talking point. And we are here for politics. So I don't think you're really beating around that bush. In terms of an actual functional standpoint, from what I've seen, is that group even actively meeting? The one that was kind of put in here for, was that for specifically the racial equity task force?
So what was kind of decided out of that is instead of reinvent the wheel and the city create an equity, we joined other equity. Is that right?
That is right. Correct. As a participant, it was, well, sorry, I'm gonna hijack, but it was, instead of us going alone, making sure that we're at the table of things that are already happening in our community, which were a whole lot of things.
I was wondering, dude, is anything actively happening?
Very active. I think they meet at least once a month,
The school zone does?
Yeah. the school district. Yes.
That's why I wasn't sure with this, kind of why you brought it up. It says a community-wide equity committee, so I didn't know if we wanted to make it more intentional about specifically what are we saying to be involved with versus a vague statement, if we know what that,
Do you want to get rid of the word or the letter A? Add an S, participate in community.
Yeah, we
Right.
can do that, because that does clarify it.
yeah.
I guess I didn't even see the A.
Yeah, but if we know that's a specific group that the school is running, I'd say, yeah, let's make it.
Or groups, and then I think if we leave it, if we say committees, then that way, if we get invited to other committees or we find out other ones exist, then that empowers us to participate in those. I mean, not couldn't anyway, but. Sure.
So would any changes coming from federal level with our new administration or Governor Reynolds mumbling something about this, I thought, affect what's in place? I know that's probably.
They changed home rule on that issue. Which,
Well,
you know,
home rule specifically has been talked about, but I mean, they always talk about it. It's not- I don't know. No, I'm sure.
To be sure, it's a political topic, and I do think that it is why I mentioned we're targeting at the same thing. Maybe it's different methodologies of accomplishing that same aim. I do agree, Councilmember Dunn, that you have different meanings. Intentional equity and equality mean something different to different people. And I happen to believe that equality is right. Equity, trying to force equal outcomes is not always right. But I've said my piece on it. If we don't want to make a change towards equality, that's fine.
Well, I mean, they're equity committees, so it's not like we can't make them change what it is.
True. And we can stop putting fuel to the fire.
So other than, do you just want to leave it? Other than, or do you want to just change it to the, just so it's, it's talking about a specific committee within the school district?
I don't think that one's referencing, there's another one just above it as well, just the verbiage equity is the issue. So I don't, if I'm the only one, we're not gonna change it. I want to participate in community-centered beneficial committees, so I'm not gonna argue that we have to stop using that task force for help. I think some of the members have their considerations voiced more explicitly after the fact, saying, I would rather it was this focused, but this is the group saying, we're gonna push forward with this terminology. So that's how it's been for about 3 years. It's 4 years, I think it's been.
This is a Cedar Falls School District.
Yeah, and I'll participate with their community, committees, that's fine. Continue to liaise in whatever capacity.
So unless there a motion to change it, we'll just leave it as is. And
And they have the ESTA committee, right?
I'm okay with that. That take A out.
Yeah.
so participate in
Beauty
the
wide.
community-wide equity committees.
Well, if the school has their own one committee,
Saying, is this just correct with you guys, staff? Since this is under the community school district, we are really just referring specifically to school district
Correct.
committees?
Well, then it should say participate in the,
At that time, I believe there was, when I had an equity committee, there was 24/7 Black, there was a county committee. I mean,
but just because of where it is.
Yeah,
and
understood.
so you
Because
and
it is nested under Cedar Falls schools, yeah.
So,
I guess, then
you and I's committee is going to forcibly scrapped, right?
we know.
yeah.
So I would, if I could recommend, I'd say then we just state it specifically as participate in any Cedar Falls Community School District equity committees.
Right.
So we're just saying we'll continue to be involved.
then it kind of begs the question, I mean, if the idea is that if there are county, cross-city committees, or sister city committees, school districts, UNI, whatever, then shouldn't we just have participate in community-wide equity committees and somewhere else in this, so that it's not assumed that it's only applicable to the Cedar Falls school?
In there.
That's what okay. So then the question becomes, is it redundant?
So maybe under B. Instead, long-term and ongoing objectives.
So this is just a very general, hey, we should be at the table if these things exist, right?
So Hannah's saying potentially move it to 2B.
Number 13, maybe? 13 then?
Yeah, make it
Yeah.
13.
With that change to participate in community-wide equity committees. That's my thought.
It's already covered under a separate bullet 5. In greater detail on the next page, so. I'll be in favor of adding it twice.
Scrap that.
Which item were you saying it's
Oh, no,
under?
that's 6.
That's under six.
Under 6?
I'm
Yeah.
proposing to scrap 5.
Yeah.
But you'll do 5.
Yeah, because it is covered under 6. So we could just remove this item and,
That's what
Depending
I'm
what we-
in favor of.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Number 6.
yeah, all those in favor of rest cleanup, removing this item? Duplicative?
Moving 3.
3F.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. The motion passes. All right.
That we get there.
Somebody had the addition, potential addition of funding to underground major power lines and rebuilding major arterials.
Aren't there limitations on that? Yeah. Aren't there limitations on what you can put underground?
I think you can actually put almost anything underground. It's just the higher the voltage, the up goes the price. So
And what,
I think I might have mentioned that because I was looking at Main Street, the part south of 18th. It's got all the spaghetti up in the air. It really looks bad. We spent 31 million doing the street. Planted trees, and then somebody realized they're gonna go right up into the power line. They moved it before the summer was over. I just thought if then it'd be up to CFU unless we contribute to do some sort of a sinking fund to underground ultimately everything. That's when you get a tornado and you get major ice storms and you get power outages and you get natural disasters like thing you don't realize in these wildfires all over the place, not just California. You're burning up the cell towers and the power lines and to get anything rebuilt there. So if you can start every year, put so much money into those major stuff.
Want to say, didn't they say we're at 60% buried right now?
Yeah.
Is that what that's?
CFU actually has a plan, what they're going for overhead to underground. And there's some, so Main Street, for instance, that was one that they're not planning to go underground just because the cost of prohibitive it is. There's
There's always a cost.
Center Street's and another one, because we've met with them several times, but engineering meets with them once a year to kind of go over their plan to figure out what they're doing with overhead to underground.
Really don't need money.
Well,
When we talk to you guys about the budget, you probably won't want to fund this one.
Well, there's two things under the sub bullet before it, continue to explore sustainability and resilience initiatives jointly. Because that is the weather preparedness and cost effectiveness is all covered on that, under that resiliency. And that way we let them, kind of like Ron is saying, they're dictating to us what they're gonna do and what they're not. Throwing money at it isn't gonna change their plans unless we're just gonna say, yeah, let's put this exorbitant bill.
Jointly agree, I mean.
Yeah, right. So it's covered in there if we have to explore it. Is that agreeable?
Yeah.
Guess I'm not, I mean, this is their fault, this is their fault, right? I don't feel
Well,
like
we meet jointly and we talk about wish lists and things and.
I mean, I think
I
if they
spoke with Steve
said-
Bernard about this. Or
I think if they said, oh, we need like, we could do this, but, we don't have the funds or whatever for it, or could we do this when you guys are doing this project, then I'm sure that's already a part of the conversation. But if they needed money, then maybe that's something to come back to, but it doesn't sound like right now they're asking for that.
And are you looking to fight to get all city lines underground? Because if we were doing that, yes, we could tell them, you're gonna do this and we're gonna pay for it. We do that with the contractor, but we happen to own the utility company, so if we're looking.
I think they got to be separate though. I don't think we can tell them to do it, if I'm wrong.
Why not?
Well,
that's Ron to clarify that what we can.
there was an
Tell them to-
ordinance and, we got challenged by, was it CenturyLink or whatever? And so just did an overhead to underground ordinance that required, and we got challenged and so the city, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good enough precedent. Keep along with the joint approach.
So I will say, just from having worked on the Mid-American side, when I was in those joint meetings with the cities, that's kind of what those meetings are, is just to talk about where they're playing underground, not underground. Depending on the utility, some they prefer 2 underground, some not. It is nicer for reliability. It's also far more expensive and more expensive to repair when it does break, because now you're digging everything up. So they're, I guess
Probably,
my thought would be trusting CFU where they think it's,
Reliability is educated. And cost more to repair. I've looked at studies of this before. Dramatically improve your reliability.
the biggest challenge for the city and CFU actually, it isn't the bigger line. The funding part can come out, but it's more where, they have lines and CFU's gone underground, but, Lumen and, which is now CenturyLink and MediaCom are still on those poles.
Right.
There's no way to make them go underground. So,
Well, there's some agreement from years gone by that when we come off a pole, they have the right to buy the pole.
unless they own the pole already,
Some
because there's, yep, so.
But I've, in some parts of town, I was involved with this discussion for years, many years. And, there's times, well, we put in the interduct, the conduit for that when we do ours. They still,
and we still, Chase, when we meet with them in the annual meeting, we talk about those options of,
Yep, every project, we meet with utility companies like West First Street, we did a joint utility trench, South Main Street roundabout, they were underground there.
West for free.
They went underground north of 18, south of 18, couldn't wonder. We have those conversations all the time on every project.
So
You enjoy it?
leaving as is,
Yes, this.
Okay, what does that mean to me? Because this was, blue is new.
Delete,
so not,
Okay,
don't
I
add.
just,
It's already included in E.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
so someone highlighted, also item 5, community resilience objectives, A through E.
That was me. I said this section is either too specific or not comprehensive enough. So we change it to something about the resilience plan. So, yeah, because I feel like there's things that we don't talk about, but also they're like weirdly specific. So then it's kind of like, well, why are we doing that and not that other thing? So I think it should just reference the resilience plan and not just be a singular item.
Do you remember, was this, Mayor Green put in to have some items included for the legislature, but that was just didn't pass in total? I think that's how I recall it. So they are oddly specific to some of the ones he wanted to do. I got not behind it, okay.
Okay, great.
Because one thing I was thinking, if we have this section, it's where I would actually like maybe every year during goal setting, since we kind of approved the resilience plan as a reference document to pull items from and approve. At goal setting, that's where we can bring up, hey, here's all the things we think this year we'd love to put in place. I don't think there was any specific ones for this year, but
I feel like we should make this more, like, maybe we could say that as a general item, but to not like list those items specifically, at least for me, for this year, not yet. I feel like we need to figure out what that looks like. Like, are we as a council just bringing forward individual things out of that plan that we like? Or are we setting up a committee that looks at it? Or are we, like, I don't feel like we have figured any of that out, to put it.
I thought it was passed so that it'll just be worked on as
As
as staff, as projects that feel,
this is meant to be one project at a time, and talk about it and approve. I feel like this was the attempt to include some action without it being approved in total, so removing it doesn't do any harm. Because we haven't approved it total.
Right.
So I'm in line with you removing it and allowing the resolution to support that on being board.
Yeah, and just make a, like, I mean, I think community resiliency and just say like reference the resilience plan in city work.
As projects are being incorporated, reference resilience plan.
Yeah. I'm sure gonna have ChatGPT write it really nice. Yeah.
Incorporate this.
so take that as, knowing you probably can't wordsmith that right here. We'll bring back maybe just a consolidated single item that just references that document.
It'll be in the document that they vote on.
Yeah, so we'll have the final one in.
Great.
the document.
We want something done on it in fiscal year 26 as a detailed objective. Right, looking at the heading that it's under. Trying to see.
There, I would say in general, there's a lot in this document that's under detailed objectives that really should be under high level, and a lot under high level that should be under detailed.
Right.
Maybe we'll talk in this.
That's gonna need to be cleaned up this coming year.
Really hard time.
Actually, quite a few that reference for
I
that.
don't want to rewrite it every 2 years. but
Right.
Maybe we do need to set base again in some future.
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, just realign, but we don't have to do that. Anyway, so that was my suggestion for item number 5. More general.
So item number 5 will be more general, and we'll delete A through E.
Ready to thumbs up or thumbs down for that? All right,
Item 6, racial equity and human rights objectives. And then there was also 6E. So I don't know if those were meant to go together or.
I know I highlighted the whole section. That partly because I feel like just a lot of the way this is called out, there's things we've already done that were still listed, so I think there were some legacy things here. And kind of the same thing we just said with the last one. And I think item E, work with the Human Rights Commission about funding.
And I just said, what's the difference between the HRC and a DEI subcommittee? If we already struggle to fill the HRC seats, should we be creating more seats to fill?
And I think E is a legacy item too, because I know there's no trying to create a separate, currently there's no active work toward creating a new separate subcommittee. No, Jen, if you could confirm that, I don't think there's any other committee being made.
think again, that attempt of, that was one of the objectives of the racial equity task force was to create an equity committee. And
But
I
it
think this
also-
was, yeah, I think this was kind of that, well, can we be part of other ones like the school, but also if we are gonna do something, does it make more sense that it's under the HRC versus creating another group? So.
Right.
But yes, Mayor, they have not, HRC has not created a subcommittee to do.
And I also want to speak to that committee, the racial equity task force. During that discussion, keep in mind, that was like a bunch of people. It wasn't just like a couple council members. It was a variety of folks from the community. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember it being stressed over and over that this is a different focus than what the Human Rights Commission, that's why the focus was on the diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that group of much more capable people than myself, I remember them stressing that. So just so we all know.
Cause I do think though, talking with Chelsea, this was something that was discussed back then, but decided we don't need another separate committee from what, so that hasn't been worked on in a couple of years.
So I would remove E.
So I'd say we could remove E. And then I would also feel like the same item A was put in here to create Chelsea's role. Didn't know if, I don't think there was any specific direction on that at this point. So I didn't know if that was one we wanted to remove too.
I'm sorry, which one?
Item A, 6A.
I think it's more general, because it does talk about human resources, which balance and the chief general. ways.
Invest in, I don't know, ongoing support, organizational capacity, instead of invest in, provide ongoing support. Make it generic, more generic.
Investments can be non-financial. It's true, Daryl, I know.
I tough to understand that one.
I know, Daryl. Wrap your head around.
Yeah, so
There's always money.
Yeah.
And if it's just an ongoing thing, we can just leave it, but I didn't know if it was created just for that
Well,
intent.
knowing that it's not always financial, I mean, I feel like
but this is through hiring human resources personnel to achieve human rights and equity goals. So I feel like if we hired Chelsea, so maybe we need to rephrase it to say like, continue to invest in organizational capacity and infrastructure for racial equity and human rights objectives.
Okay.
Any discussion on
That's what I
that?
said, wasn't it?
I'll just put my 2 cents in. I like that as opposed to.
He said,
I don't think she used the word invest. She said continue to support, is that what you said?
Great.
Yep.
No, Daryl, my brain doesn't hear what I'm saying. I just say it.
She was her third, you know, that is just kind of a boss.
that's just proof I'm hard working.
So we would be taking out the through hiring human
No, I got
resources personnel.
Yeah.
So invest in organizational capacity and infrastructure to continue to organizational capacity and infrastructure to achieve human rights and equity
I'll
goals.
just read it
Yeah.
back, please.
Well, what I wrote that Hannah said was continue to invest in organizational capacity and infrastructure to achieve human rights and equity goals,
Beautiful.
right?
That's a work of art. It's because I.
So says the author.
Okay, so we have that.
So 6A is changed and E is being deleted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We have thumbs up on those.
Big thumbs.
Okay.
Okay, on to old item G, new item F, or vice versa. Evaluate city policy towards renters, rentals, and property owners. Remove the bias against rentals/renters.
I would have probably.
Can't remember.
No.
I don't know how that's gonna be a policy.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle Larson came up in front of council and said, we gotta get rid of the bias toward against rentals.
Right, which I mean,
It's there,
okay,
it's in the community and it's been there for decades.
the first half. Evaluate city policies towards renters, rentals and property owners, or whatever. Okay, thumbs up to that, but the remove the bias against rentals and renters, that's a little harder. And I don't know that it can be, oh, that's really hard. I want it to be a goal, but I don't know how Like, how do you achieve that?
He's biased everywhere. And I understand, yes, he did say that, and I think, I felt like maybe he was saying it to me, and that's his opinion. That's his opinion. There's bias everywhere.
Multiple people that do.
That's fine,
Well, I actually think we've all in council,
and I'm
a
saying,
lot of us have brought it up just because
Right, right.
previous, current, recent conversations.
Yeah.
Right, and you literally said at the last meeting.
It's a goal,
Just question of if it's,
an identifiable target, like,
Right.
we can't influence the outcome guaranteed, then we shouldn't be shooting for it. We can keep ourselves accountable for how we speak towards
Yeah,
confirmation of that bias.
Right.
We're all good at speaking properly about that. I like the first part, evaluate that. I do have a similar concern about how, renter, situations are viewed, having heard from the citizenry. So I think first half of that might be good to just continue to evaluate or take a look at it again, make sure our policies match up with best practice and that we know what's going on. Part of that could be our own research. But that second half is an accomplishment.
yeah, I think it would be good to have staff review the policies just to confirm that there isn't any language in there that could be perceived as bias. I don't know what language that would be.
I read it as two things. One is the bias in a way that you would consider to be like prejudice, which is not what was addressed at the council, right? They're not
Yeah,
renters. We've all been renters.
right.
So, the other part is removing bias. What, are there unneeded impediments to the establishment of running of rental properties within a code? And those would have to be specifically identified to show.
Yeah.
That there's some sort of built-in discouragement to rentals that doesn't fulfill, if it fulfills an important regulatory need, safety and compliance, and all those things.
Welfare.
Some people call that an impediment, and I will say it's a needed regulation, but, I do like,
Well-
in general,
The argument comes, why do we treat renters or rentals differently than owner occupied properties, specifically when they sell?
you don't have to show me the code. I'm not arguing.
Also,
Yeah,
that's where, because I know we've got in the future section on code enforcement objectives and those, there's quite a few around rentals that we've got highlighted. So do we feel this makes sense in the human rights objectives, or is that something we should be looking at under the?
right to not treat renters and rentals differently.
So maybe what needs to happen is,
protecting the plants.
that's also true.
People have to protect the class.
Yeah, like,
They say no more than 4 people.
but, but it's not,
How they get away with that?
Only guys, one conversation, Tom.
Oh, they are.
All right, Hannah, guys, bring it back over here.
so. I think maybe instead of this being a racial equity and human rights objective, it's more of a council objective, like that we would be directing staff to review our current policies to confirm that they are up to date, that there aren't any like unnecessary regulations. And like Aaron said, I mean, that's obviously gonna be.
I
something
think
we're
it's a
gonna
human
say.
rights objective to treat rentals and renters and owner occupied the same.
So then is Chelsea reviewing that? I feel like that's, to me, that's who is like achieving these goals, right?
It's our staff.
Yeah, like,
Well, aspects of it would be under that purview, and then aspects would be under the inspections, and aspects would be under, a lot of different staff facets. We're not asking this to one individual staff person, but we are saying, hey, we as a council want to make sure that we're inviting and treating our renters like citizens and not second-class citizens. So just as an overarching objective, I like the generic verbiage that you added into bullet A. That kind of goes here, hey, let's evaluate the city policy towards renters, rentals. What's the X property owners? Is that non-resident? That's fine. What's the X stand for, Darren, when you're writing? So in order to ensure income property owners. Which is a rental. Yeah,
Oh, that's what the triple X is?
yeah. That's
We didn't want to
What
call
type of-
anybody out, but.
What type of income?
Yeah, we're not getting seedy establishments on the.
It's like, what expletive did you use?
Establishment.
That didn't feel comfortable.
That was a different year. different-
Evaluate that those CD establishments are treating people equally. Okay, well,
That's everybody.
I mean, I'm not opposed
Everybody's
to it, I
equal in the eyes of the law.
And partly though, I do want to be cognizant of, if we're calling it out in this specifically. It does mean that issue has risen to the point of saying, this is a big enough problem, we want to call it out. If we, because kind of this section just generally cover, making sure we're doing equitable practices, making sure we're doing that. Does this need to be called out explicitly? Are we saying that that's important enough at this point to call it out in a human rights objective? Or are we saying we just want to review our policies?
We had housing objectives coming up, right?
Right. I kind of feel like we start with it, treating it as like a housing objective. And then if upon discovery, we find, oh, wow, we've really been putting in some barriers here. Then maybe, then it gets tossed back to human rights and you talk about it as a human rights issue. That makes sense? For sure.
Yeah,
Where's the housing stuff?
it's coming up.
So if you guys are okay with putting a pin in this one, we'll get to the housing stuff and just see if it makes more sense when we get there to include it there, or if we need to look at adding something back over here.
Great.
If everyone's okay with pinning that for now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just not forget it.
we'll come back to that tonight.
There's,
Just before we kick it to that, which section are we talking about for housing impact?
So there's section,
Six. Four C six.
What page is that?
page 19.
Yeah, because it talks about affordable.
Affordable housing. It's their economic development.
and there's also some things under code enforcement about how we're treating rentals and
Right.
So many things to filter.
So I'm in favor. This is not necessarily hitting on the bias against rentals.
so we'll, if you're okay with it, we'll go through it and then we'll
Okay.
circle back if we feel
That's fine.
they didn't address it.
I could feel freshman appropriate.
All right. Daryl, your 7F new one, hold city council meetings during June, July, August. And would you like to give the 30-second?
Well, I visited with Denny and we had a discussion about what other commitments he or the TV people would have. And he thought there wouldn't be much of an objective to do it on Wednesdays, I think is what, did I put that? And it'd be a nice break for the summer for staff and people that travel for vacations instead of coming back on a Monday for the council meeting, you can come back Tuesday or whatever, and then have the council meeting on Wednesday. And try it for June, July, and August. It'd be 6 meetings.
I'll wait for Hannah to get back.
So,
So first would be a vote. Do we want to even discuss it or not?
I feel like there's more to it besides, if I recall all the discussions that we had about changing it, I think to Tuesdays was the request, so not long
That
ago,
was-
was it?
well, let's vote to discuss it then.
Okay, if I can't say what I want to say right now, I'll just say.
Well, that's my,
Well,
They're
just-
saying-
I'm gonna say that it's not just that simple. So if I can say that
you
without
can say
being
that,
interrupted.
okay, we can talk. It's on the agenda to talk about it. So speak. What you gonna say?
I'm trying to ask Jen a question. Jen, was there more to it, or whoever staff, about how the everything gets turned in and the agenda gets posted and all, like, that thought of giving staff more time off in the summer, how would that affect staff? Is it, just off the top of your,
So, well, I think the question would be is if they're gonna be on Wednesday, does that mean it changes when the packet goes out? So right now for a council meeting Monday, a packet goes out on Wednesday. So if we change it by 2 days, does that mean the packet goes out on Fridays now versus Wednesday? And so from a staff perspective, now there's Fridays they can't take off because of a packet. I mean, I feel like you're kind of trading. It's like you take Monday off now because there's no council meeting, but now I got staff who couldn't take Friday off because they gotta get a packet out. So I think that's what you're getting at. How does it affect when a packet
It's not quite as simple.
If I can jump in just real quick, I know our meeting procedures are heavily governed by Robert's rules. This is way more civil, right? But for lack of a second that wants to talk this through, we've been gone to the next item already. So we haven't been doing that on the other ones. We talked about each one individually. Yeah, that's a fair point. But to answer Jennifer's remark here on the Friday, it's due on Friday.
So the tax goes out on Friday.
Right.
So you have staff who's on Friday trying to get everything finished, get items that people
Right.
haven't turned in
I'm down
yet.
for it.
So is there a second to discussion? All right, sorry, Daryl. Seeing none. We'll move forward. All right, 3-7. Goal number 3, ensuring ensuring government efficiency and effectiveness. Maintain a stable property tax relative to the consumer price index. And I think I am actually have flagged that just because it was a question of, are we saying that's just usually a goal versus a,
It is actually in the,
We highlighted that as well. And my thought was when we hear the verbiage of going to 0 and then eventually that'll bite us. So that might have been, I believe I may have highlighted that.
yeah,
Just to
3-7.
emphasize it.
387.
Yep, 3-7.
The only reason to say that is because ideally, as the tax valuations on the properties go up with cost of living, that you can keep your rate the same and our income and receipts go up with the value of everything, if it all kept in. And last couple of years, we had some assessed values that went nuts. So we don't want to just raise the tax rate at the same rate of inflation every single year. I mean, some would argue that we shouldn't, and I know I voted for the pay raise, but that we shouldn't raise ours with the cost of living, but there's a difference, I mean, between fighting for a 0. Once we've spread our tax base wide enough and we're sustainable, we shouldn't have to keep raising taxes every single year.
The key part you just said was sustainable. But I think doesn't make a lot of sense to have a goal in here that tries to tie it to anything. Say you are stuck at this. Our job as council is to try to keep taxes as low as possible while at the same time moving forward with the projects that we believe are necessary for the city, maintaining essential services. That will be a different tax rate every year, every budget season. Again, we're gonna have to make those tough choices coming up. So this trying to tie it to inflation or consumer price index or whatever that might be, when we decide what that index is. Is it June of that year? Is it July of that year?
Well,
You know,
published,
I
but it
understand.
doesn't say that.
Right. Right. So I think
Delete it.
Delete it.
I deleted, or people deleted.
And we do have some state parameters around max ratings.
Right.
Percent, and I thought it was 3.
Who knows?
it's awful.
It's awful.
Currently, they are undecided on what they're actually
we can do
proposing.
anything, just not everything.
And I think the reason I brought it up too is just, it's really something every year we're gonna set the tax rate. Yeah, it's a good general principle. It's kind of like the bonding amount, like you're still gonna decide as a group, the council's still gonna vote on every year. What's the final?
And it's
Budget.
relative, in what way does it relate to the CPI?
Right.
That's up to our discussion every year anyway.
Yep.
This isn't any guidance.
So it's like, if it's something we're not really actually following as a solid principle, it's just there for general guidance, should it be there or?
It already adjusts with the valuations going up every year. How about maintain a sustainable property tax rate?
I don't think we need it. I don't know.
I'd say we just, I've already crossed it off.
Gil already crossed it off.
Already crossed it off. It's too late.
All right, done deal.
So it sounds like just to vote on it quick, the proposal would be just to strike it out as unnecessary.
Max space.
Get rid of 7.
You look strike thing.
Strike
Yeah,
it.
strike it.
You look like you want to say something.
So we struck 7. So do we need to go back to A1?
And what does A1 say?
A1 says limit tax increases to no more than the rate of inflation in residential properties for controllable costs.
Wait.
Yeah.
Very first
Yeah, we
page,
did discuss that back.
very
there,
first
too.
page on the financial policies.
Yeah.
Because I will say again, just from my time being here, as a city, we are pretty fiscally conservative overall. Again, we're one of the lower rates. So I don't think striking it means we're just gonna all of a sudden be like, see, we don't have to, we can raise things as much as we want. In principle, or in reality, I think we're doing these things and being conservative with our spending. It's just a question of, does an item need to exist in here as a policy that's not really a,
I think in general, if we have a policy that's just reworded that says that we try to limit tax increases and balance that with ensuring essential services and other projects that we have. Again, our goal is gonna be different every time we set the budget, send our notes out. Plus, I have a hard time figuring out
Which one?
That's what I want to
what's
say.
control of the cost.
Well, I think some of that is when we have, let's pick police and fire pension that's governed by the state. If they raise that by 10%,
Oh.
we have no control over it.
So basically what you mean, like discretionary spending. which is
Right.
stuff
Correct.
we're blind.
But,
Okay.
and I think why this is just getting harder and harder is House File 718 or residential rollback. We had a goal last year, but when the residential rollback was all the way down to 46%, I mean, it was difficult. I mean, there's so many more maybe parameters now that does make it tougher to have a policy out.
Because we're being told with that policy.
Right,
Right.
by the House.
Like when we were in charge, then we could say this,
Yeah.
because we had other avenues of revenue, but we're now, they're like, I can't have that.
We're still learning about the effects of House File 718. So for instance, remember when Jen told you that we had to take that 29 cents from the library levy and the band levy and get it down to the 810? Well, we learned a couple weeks ago that, no, actually, our max this year is 806. We can't even go up to the 810.
We're 806.
That's what House File 718. I learned Saturday night from another city administrator, Coralville, they are actually down to 780. So
So
and we'll be meeting with everyone on the budget stuff here soon.
why do we
So that'll
need a tax? Why do we need a tax policy since we're being told tax policy?
So,
Because I will say the principle of, so what you said, and this kind of, I think the state's principle is, if all things remain the same, all the services we're providing, yes, you should be able to maintain your budget within CPI if you're offering the same taxes. But if this group decides we want to offer a new service or build a new park, that number is going to go up. So I think the heart of that item was basically to say, all things remaining equal, you shouldn't need to raise more than CPI if we're just maintaining those services.
This has probably been on the thing before. It's been on forever.
So
Back,
part of me says it's not even worth talking about, just leave it, it doesn't matter. But
Well, inflation is different than CPI. I mean, if inflation is flat, we don't get to raise taxes, but we can violate policy. So in that vein, this is just a policy, guiding document. Or are
is it
you
even worth talking about?
arguing for removing that
well, I was just,
because it's inconsistent?
yeah, it
Yeah.
just, so I didn't want on the day we're gonna adopt this, somebody say, hey, I thought we got rid of this, but it was in two places. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm pointing it out.
Well, Dustin's comment earlier, residential property is indexed up with inflation by virtue of the valuations, which gives us more dollars of revenue. So it takes into account the inflation every other year.
right. My vote
Bill,
would
is it-
be,
Yeah, it does eventually.
my vote
Not
would
this
be
year.
to remove A1, because even if we as a body have a collective understanding, this document is also for our citizens to look at, to understand the direction that we're going. And so if we don't follow this policy, then they have, an avenue of recourse. So I move, we strike it.
And quick other option would be, knowing that it's always at the will of council, is do you just add something that says, try to,
I think that's what Aaron had, some language there.
However, the idea.
so attempt to maintain a stable property tax relative to the consumer price index unless otherwise.
Let's can.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
I mean, the board always maintain a tax rate in the top 10 of the largest 20 cities.
I don't want to be
Like the bottom half.
What other?
Or even more, Dave,
it's like, I
that's
mean,
not relevant when our valuations of our properties are higher than average.
And
So-
also, again, it's like, presumably citizens are electing people who they're like fiscally aligned with in some capacity. So, it's like, I mean, I think if you had a council that, went nuts and was like, oh, we're gonna raise taxes like crazy, well, the state would stop you, first of all, but then, you didn't get voted for it. I don't know. I just don't, it's like the policy just doesn't make sense to me.
I really am of the opinion that we're handcuffed by the legislation that's out there. There is no way to run right. To this point,
A1 to work handcuffed.
we're handcuffed. Attend legislative meetings.
So the question is, do we want to remove it? Just leave it and
I don't.
not worry about it, or
I mean,
I don't care if we leave it.
which one? A1 or?
We already struck that.
Okay.
Because Gil struck.
no, we never voted to actually strike it. It's still just in, you struck it.
Did we all
We did.
said?
We did.
Yeah, we
did.
voted.
Yeah.
That's until Ron said, but what about?
Oh, no, I said that after. You
Yeah.
said-
Yeah. That has been struck.
Yeah.
So I took that as a friendly amendment that we're still,
Struck it.
That's it works.
I think we
Or-
keep one under the short-term financial plan and still give it a 7.
so get rid of 3-7 and still leave the A1 in there.
Yeah, try to true methodologies.
So
Sorry to go backwards.
Change A1 to it's fine.
There's a lot of this. Like you said, there's always things to clean up. All right, any opposition to that? Otherwise, honestly, we got more important things in reality. Okay.
Yeah.
Take out the 3-7, leave the.
It hasn't been struck as.
Dripping.
All right. 3-10. Is run a community-wide survey looking for ideas on saving money throughout the city.
Who wants citywide Doge?
Who wants to spend money to save money?
I'll personally say, having run several businesses, don't ask your customers to tell you how to cut your budget. That's your job internally, just my opinion.
I don't want a Doge department.
Ron,
Ask the millennials to take that
was
seriously.
there, actually, this was before, maybe it was, there was a process that we went through to replace ideas from the public.
Budget task force.
So the budget task force was an internal, committee by the city. And then we did send out information asking, are there ideas out there? Just soliciting. We didn't actually do a survey or anything like that, but
Well, I put this in there with that concept. What'd you call it? What?
It was a budget task force.
Budget task force.
I thought it was 2012, 2013.
that seems right.
That's something I talked to Ron about is, because I know every year staff kind of looks at everything we're doing. But also it might be, we could look at, are we at a good point where maybe we do just a review, run through, or is there anything duplicative we have? Is there anywhere we can, again, we're already pretty efficient as a city. Never hurts to also look if there's other things. I don't know though if we need a community-wide survey. But
Keeps asking surveys. I don't need to give a survey.
that's true, we have a lot of surveys always.
Well, then the budget issues just become that deep time. It's like, don't build around about, there's a way to save money.
Oh,
Silly. Huh?
Sorry we asked you, we didn't really care.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think there's been.
You're really good with that laugh.
Official survey where we hire a company to do it. But it could be a comment in, occurrence, say we're open to ideas and constructive.
Well, I think we're always open to ideas. We all hear from,
I know.
We get ideas all the
we
time.
get ideas all the time, so.
All right, so anybody motioning to want to talk about this, or we'll probably talk something similar just when we talk everyone with budget. So-
We could consider
Yeah, if we just-
Survey aspect, but we don't need that
Yeah,
survey.
You'll already-
Get some experts.
you'll already
make
struck it.
recommendations.
It's already been struck in.
already strucken. All right, B3, continue to dedicate TIF release dollars generated by expired TIF areas to future economic development projects. I know I also highlighted this, just asking, do we want to remove it because it's duplicative of we already cover TIF and another section, so I didn't know if we needed to.
Special plan.
As long as it's otherwise covered, as long as it's reflected, like you think it's a good policy, so policies. Recognize the minutes.
Well, it's the public complaining that they don't see the money going towards reducing tax rates and
Yeah.
general fund.
And we've violated that the last 2 years by releasing some of that towards the general fund. So this is now.
Yeah, because right now we're
Violated.
like 50%.
Yeah, correct.
That's why I'm saying this, should we remove it? Because we have it in the financial policies, so it's,
It's already covered. And we've adjusted a little bit on the fly as per council wins. So
yep.
removing this one's fine with me.
We're going to take it out.
Yep.
Gil struck it.
It's already,
It has,
Just look at Gil's
Been
paper,
struck it.
if there's a line through it, it's done.
we're actually just going to use yours as the reference.
there you
right
go.
now. All right, item 10, maintain the public.
I highlighted this and Ron already answered my question and, or no, Craig did. We are continuing this program. It's still a thing. I know we talked about it and during animal control, like we were moving one of them to being like a full-time position or whatever, but we still have them and we'll keep having them. Great.
And we had more this year than we did last year.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was just for her clarification. Nobody else has a reason. We'll just,
I added it on there, but that's the same question I had. Do we still have it? Still need, but we're not eradicating that position. So if it, there.
okay,
I think.
another one.
I was trying to find the tip in the financial policy.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
I haven't found it either
Other
yet.
conversation.
I did.
I just wanted to double check that before we.
Is it
Mr. Mayor, where is Tip?
A2? Right from the beginning, A2, the last sentence kind of said that.
Yeah, continue the transfer TIF.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and we were gonna make.
Okay.
an item, actually, that's my notes.
I was
Yep.
reading that. Okay.
3C1C, continue to the practice of succession planning to identify talented internal candidates when a vacancy is expected to occur. Did you do this, Dustin? Just wondering about. I remember talking with somebody about just the question of, like, yes, we want to help look at internal candidates, but also wanting to make sure we're reviewing external candidates. I can't remember who actually put this on there.
Yeah, I don't see it highlighted on my list on
Okay.
that one, but that doesn't mean anything because the numbering is fun because of the complexity of the document. I would say on that vein that we do want to evaluate succession plans in advance, i.e. what we call build the bench. So if you have one asset that knows everything, you want to have a number two that learns understudy. Additionally, to your comment, Dan, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to say, hey, when we have a particular need that we may not have the capability to train up internally, we should look externally, not just broadcast positions internal. I don't know if we have a policy that says that from the HR side. I'm not trying to set a different edict on that, but whatever's best to make sure the citizens' needs are tackled most efficiently. I guess maybe most efficiently isn't what I mean. I mean, well,
Most effectively.
Well,
most effectively. Yes.
I think
Sometimes
most talented. I think the fact that externals is always kind of a given from a higher. So this is just.
is it? That's a big Danny's question.
So I think that the only time Jen can jump in here, there has been a rare occasion that we've only done internal postings on some, but, public safety is one that, promotional positions, internal candidates get preference, so, there's other promotional ones within the city too, Jen, right? If it's a promotional position, then, a lot of times we don't do it external there because if you have on the certified list, which we don't have anymore. So,
But this
But we
just
still
a,
have promotional list.
but promotional list is different. That's right. Sorry.
Internal candidate gets preference on a promotional list. So I think our theory has been is if we have 10 internal candidates and an internal by civil service law is going to get preference anyway. I think the thought is why advertise for
Why spend the money to do it?
because they're gonna get preference anyway. Now, I think if we feel like, I don't know if there's anybody
There's only
internal, or
one.
maybe there's only one,
Then we have.
we better advertise outside because we don't,
Yeah.
we probably need to make sure we have a qualified candidate. So
I can thoroughly
it's a
understand.
mixed bag.
But everything else is pretty much, external.
Yeah.
We do an internal, external.
Yeah.
My assumption was with this item, the intent when it was created was just to encourage us to do succession planning.
I think so. I mean,
We got some retirements coming up. Sorry.
it's a reminder to think ahead, that talent's not always gonna be there, that, like you said, Dustin, we gotta build the bench and, so.
Not
You know, we-
remembering a call out, I think I'm good.
Yeah. So is there any proposed changes or are we good?
And just so this group knows, part of the process that we go through when we do evaluations every year is talk with, employees, hey, what do you want to do next at the city? And so if there's opportunities for them, maybe they want to go a certain path. Somebody may say, hey, I've got my eye on this division manager, director job, and I'd really like to get there. How do I get there? You try to work with them, expose them to some of those. There's other employees that have said, you know, I like what I'm doing and I'm comfortable. But every year we definitely take time out of the evaluation process to do that.
Do we have a separate individual development plan? They would have that currently where that exact thing is a targeted conversation. Say, where do you want to be? How can we get you there?
It's more in the evaluation process.
Okay, if there's no motion, we'll keep moving.
Daryl, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I got asked that
Aruba?
question.
Traveling as much as I can possibly travel. Might be, Fuji, as
Yeah,
As long as he's back at CF, but
Alaska.
that's right. As long as he's back and CF by Wednesday.
Jeff, it's gotta be Tuesday through Sunday.
It does, I do. And then my goal is to at least one Zoom meeting per quarter. Right on target.
I did have a student at UNI asked me, so like, what are your plans after mayor? I was like, I just got here.
I just got it.
making motions all.
Don't, haven't, like, let me figure this out first before I even, don't ask me that question. Rude. Okay, item numbering.
G, letter G, or choose.
I agree with that. This is,
Whatever G, page
yeah, page 14.
Up on
14,
the screen.
item G, up on the screen.
Right, like-
Pursue the establishment of a new public safety station along West First Street, Highway 57. I think I talked with you about it. I put this in here partly just because I didn't know if we wanted to have an actionable thing with this, other than just the vague statement of pursue it. If we wanted to, because this was under, I think, detailed.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, like, is there a specific action we're trying to say we're doing this year, or is this just a general, well, your policy of continue to pursue it?
Pursuing, so it could be the forefront when the opportunity hits that we gotta buy the school property or they're gonna give it to us for $1. And then,
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, pursue it.
pursue.
Yep.
And I don't even know
Okay.
if it needs to be on the, they're limited to West First Highway. I mean, the whole idea is to be on the north side. closer to the north side.
There were.
On Lone Tree, Lone Tree and
There's a building
218.
out there. Well, Aaron, there were some study supports for that locale just because of how we get out there and stuff, and then we can.
I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm just
Take away
saying
the flower.
the idea is on the north side, so.
I
I mean, if we're a block off, you
Location,
know.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, they did a study on the state trooper location
Yeah.
but the studies aren't rocket science, you know, look it up. Look at the city, figure out where you should put your.
Don't question the study.
How dare you?
Now surveys, that's different.
Yeah.
So any reason to change it or just
Leave it.
leave it?
Just leave it.
Good.
That's fine.
You guys never liked my
And
ideas.
I would say.
I didn't strike it.
Because you're only first year.
You second.
Second now, thanks, Donna.
Sophomore year.
This was
Yeah.
goal setting for last year.
If there is some office hours dedicated towards those conversations that the esteemed gentleman alluded to, yes, get it.
Okay, do you know the duly? All right, new item. L, continue to use standard tools to evaluate performance of public safety services. I'll just group that with M, perform RFP process. In fairness, we did already discuss this during goal setting and decided not to act on it at this time. If everyone's comfortable, I'd say we had that discussion. It would be duplicative to rehash that. Item N, establish new position, animal control to enhance community safety. And
I added N because I just like to, show what we did.
Craig,
We're
give an
doing
update.
this.
that's going around right now. We advertised, the advertisements were due at the end of December, got 37 apps. And then this week, they're interviewing, they did a screening last week, and then this week, they're interviewing 16 people on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings.
16.
Awesome.
Wow.
Two.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put this in here so people know what we're doing. We did
But
stuff.
one of Anna's arguments was too, even though it's something we know is already getting checked off, still good to have it in there, and at the end of the year, we can show, hey, we got that done.
We did it.
I like the list of even, yeah, even if it's stuff that we don't necessarily need in our minds, but if you are an everyday person, I like when.
So motion, and I'll take that as a second,
Yeah.
to add that item in.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs
Thumbs
up,
up.
both are down and adding that item in.
L and M.
Correct.
And
L and M are gone, N is added.
And I guess in fairness, are you comfortable with that? Just knowing we,
Just double checking which ones you're adding. You're adding
So-
just in.
just in, and then LMM, just saying, kind of, we had that discussion. We did decide not to move forward with them at this point, so
And
L and M.
great.
I personally,
Well,
remember when I put in L.
actually, I was gonna say M we did.
Yeah,
Does anyone remember if L was,
L was not.
Someone else's? yeah,
I do think that one is still as recommended as any evaluative process, and I think Greg already has that. So just to know that we have to our citizens, if they do look at this, that is our intention to continue to relay how we're doing on how many calls we respond to, what types, crime rates, et cetera, are all included in that. So we'll continue to use those standard tools. I don't think this is asking anything of an external assessment or anything like that. Shouldn't be anything.
Yep.
Interpretation.
Right, that's just part of normal data.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Correct.
so motion for that,
so L is
Second.
included, I go thumbs up.
I'm in
For-
favor.
everyone include,
Thumbs up.
okay, so,
Hopefully you can scratch that off.
Nothing, yeah.
You get some white out.
you got that, Jen?
Yep, L and N to add M.
Yes. All right, then moving to 3C, continue the full-time code enforcement officer position to enforce property maintenance, snow removal, zoning, housing, building, and nuisances. Don't remember who called that one out specifically.
I may have, just to make sure we stay on top of it. Yep,
Third spot.
yep.
Is there any proposed changes or anything to it? All right, so we'll move on to E, prioritize code enforcement on issues related to health and safety, property maintenance, and overcrowding or over occupancy. There was a few of these I think I highlighted, only because when I look at all of expanding building codes. So some of these I highlighted only to make sure, it seemed like they were oddly specific toward like expand building maintenance, code inspections, enforcement citywide, including the College Hill area. The College Hill was getting called out separately, and just wanted to have that conversation of, is that still something we wanted specifically explicitly called out? Or,
Can I ask a question then about E and G? And to me, prioritize, E would be prioritize code enforcement on issues related to health and safety, period. Call it good. Because obviously if it's related to health and safety, it should be a priority as opposed to how something looks. And then G, do we not enforce our code citywide?
Yes.
Yes, we do. We have, the town's broken down into several areas, and then, each year or each quarter, we try to hit a certain amount of those areas.
So the idea that expand building maintenance, expand it, maintenance code inspection, we do it already, right?
This is very specific to council's past.
I'm in favor of, because we already talked about enforcing the code, we don't need G.
Agreed.
I think I'd push back a little bit because we've had some extensive conversations around the desire from the council to enhance what we call beautification on some properties in certain areas. We did do a huge enforcement on that whole district 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so there are still some where, I mean, it takes, talk to the code enforcement officers, it takes eons to gain compliance. And they're overworked. So I think expand is the right language.
Well, I don't think it should say including the College Hill area.
Say, it sounds like that was maybe
Kind of
added.
picking on them in the past, yeah.
What are you saying? Hire more people? Because we already have under 3, continue to be proactive in code enforcement activities. Starting later with the sports and code, and you're talking about staffing issue.
I would second what Aaron said, prioritize code enforcement issues on related to health and safety, period. And remove G.
So is everybody good with E? Start off with E.
So E would be, it sounds like the proposal is period after health and safety and remove property maintenance and overcrowding and over occupancy.
Yes.
So we have motion and second on that.
Say that again.
So item E would be to write it as prioritize code enforcement on issues related to health and safety, period, and remove the rest.
Because
So delete property maintenance and overcrowding and over
to
occupancy.
clarify, sorry, that's
Yeah,
it,
go
but to clarify, it's because that is, when you say related to health and safety, you don't need that other stuff.
It's redundant.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
redundant.
And in C, the redundancy is already covered
Right.
explicitly in what the job does. Yeah, but we're prioritizing health and safety. Fantastic. So move the latter portion of E, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. So then item G, there's been a proposal to just remove the item.
We're already doing it. We're already doing that. We're not expanding anything. We're already doing it all over the city.
Yeah, I think if we say expand.
I know
then-
that Dustin's argument would be that we need to be doing it more.
Yeah, my argument is, I think Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're proactive in a zone by zone basis, and we can't get to all of them every 5 years even.
Right.
So we're reactive primarily, right? So if somebody calls and says, hey, I got this going on and the dog is being left out for 4 days without water, that's a health and safety and enforcement of the animal control officers. But, you know, if we don't get some proactive compliance efforts in the zones that aren't being monitored, it looks bad to visitors.
So
You don't
then-
want to have a neighbor get pissed off before they call us to take care of this thing. We should be out policing it a little bit. But
How many more people do you want?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah, because I would say, yeah,
Let's talk about millage rates in a little while.
And to me, that's under be, continue to be proactive,
yeah,
not re.
yeah, because I would say coming from the staff side, expanding it, especially as the detailed objective to me is saying specifically this year, look at ways to expand that capacity, either hire more
and we
contract people.
have two now.
Right. we think
Yeah.
That's. it is
Yeah.
right.
All right. I'm okay with removing it.
So motion to remove it. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, strike item G.
You got that?
It's already done.
Item I is to continue to annually evaluate efficacy of the landlord accountability ordinance. I also pulled this one because I kind of asked staff, I'm like, do we actually annually do this? Doesn't sound like we really annually fully sit down and just kind of an ongoing, it's there. Then my question is, do we want to make a specific motion to review that this year? That's kind of what it says we should do, is annually evaluate it.
Can someone high level, what, landlord accountability ordinance?
It's a point system for violations. So you pulled the pin out of that other one yet? If you have
Well-
focus in your front yard, you get a letter, and you get 2 points. If you got loud music, you get points. If you got parking in the grass, you get points. If your garbage can isn't taken off, you get points. And as soon as you get 15 points, the landlord could lose their rental.
So the landlords are accountable for their renters' behavior.
That's not.
And
Well, you get what they.
we're evaluating the efficacy as in, like, oh,
Is
should
it
we
working?
adjust how many points they get? Or like, what's like
Or
that's
is it?
Yeah, is it working? Is it-
Is, but like, is evaluating it just being like, yep, we still have landlords.
Well, that's what I'm asking is, I think it's been in there. I think it's just been in there it's just always been in there. But I'm the type, if it's in here, I'd either like to say this is an actionable thing, we're saying do something,
Right.
or take it out.
What is the intention behind the landlord accountability ordinance in 3 sentences or less?
My understanding is it was adopted instead of us going straight to issue a citation for an issue like Carol mentioned.
It's like progressive discipline.
Couch yard.
We really mean it. And we
Yeah,
really, really
I'm gonna
mean it.
count
And then,
three.
Double speaker's probation.
Or 15,
Double
as the
secret.
case may be. And if you do that 14 or 15 more times, I'm gonna tell you this time.
do the violations, drop off over time?
Yes.
It's a calendar year, so.
Okay, so if I had,
It's not a violation.
excuse me, if I had a point,
We issue points.
okay,
No violation for a citation, they've
Yeah.
been, referred to inappropriately, but yeah. So let's say March 1, they didn't bring the snow. And then in May, they got a sofa one, whatever. Then next March, that March 1 comes off.
okay,
Okay,
so
it's
after
not
the
that
year,
it clears everything to zero, but they rolling come off.
so it would take a lot to get to 15.
It takes a lot. It
Yeah.
has, up until a couple of years ago, when we started really using it for the paving and really started coordinating better with rental about rental maintenance issues. You didn't have people getting to 15.
Which to me is proof that it works.
Yeah, okay, I
There's not that
vote
many violations to get,
So,
I
you
vote
gotta try really hard.
remove,
It means you're not monitoring the property.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
remove.
is there any reason that anyone thinks this year specifically we need to?
It sounds like it's kind of, I guess no, I don't think a change needs to be made, but I think sometimes with evaluate, like, this isn't just this is for council, for citizens, but for staff too. And I would say that if I was the person doing the job, I would expect that if something wasn't working, a recommendation would be coming forward. So I don't want to take away anything. I'm not for changing anything, but I understand what you're saying. And I don't feel like we need that either.
Maybe instead it could say, like the other ones, continue to be proactive or continue, instead of saying annually evaluate, it's like continue to utilize the landlord accountability ordinance. Cause it's like the directive of the code enforcement department. Does that satisfy your need?
I think my need was more so just I knew it's something that hadn't really been discussed, or reviewed in a while, and just wanted to make sure it was. So if everyone's comfortable with it, sounds like it's working and there's no concerns. I think it's not bad having it in there, but I also had heard some things about it and just wanted to make sure it was something we felt
I don't
looking
think,
for action for.
Mountain out of Molehill, I've only heard from a handful. But the policy, as I understand it, is unique. Right, the landlord accountability ordinance is unique to Cedar Falls. And so tied in with that item we put a pin in, evaluating city policy towards rentals and property owners of those. Are we doing anything that's causing a problematic engagement there? And I know obviously we're not to control the bias against slum, whatever. But that's where I'm going, okay, does it need to continue? Is it effective? I'll take the recommendations, and part of me is like, an ordinance carries the weight of law, counting to 3. That's not what I do in my house. I said, no, you gotta stop it. I don't count to figure. So to me, I want to take a look at it and find out, is it delivering on, and it sounds like it's delivering on what we intend it for.
Right.
But is it also becoming, and I've heard this from 3 different landlords, that it's like, why are you guys doing this? You're the only ones that do this. I get letter after letter after letter after letter. It's annoying to work with Cedar Falls. So is it keeping people from renting in Cedar Falls when we need workforce housing?
See, I disagree. I mean, the alternative is that we would just say it's a code violation and issue a citation of the violation.
Well,
So this is a way to say, hey.
from our vantage.
We'll work with you. Well, and the landlord needs to see it this way because we'll work with you to get this cleaned up, It's not on your record. The point's not on your record forever, and, other than that, we want to ensure compliance with the ordinance. Here's a citation.
I'll
And
give
then
you
we have
an
to go through
example of a real world scenario. People, tenants move into town, new people. They put out a desk, a coffee table, an office chair sits at the curb. And that legitimately would get a point and a letter that they used to send certified mail or $2.85 or something. Okay, then there was a time when one of the police officers would call me and say, hey, apartment so-and-so has a office chair in the front yard. oh, they just moved in, they didn't know they couldn't just set it out there. And then proof it was gone when I got out for that day. And that was good for a number of years, and then that person rotated out of that position, and then we got these citations again. So the accountability ordinance, if it's enforced to the letter, there will be many more letters going out than really are.
It takes an effort to get points. It's,
If a sofa sit there, you know, because
Wait, so,
we usually don't issue points on a first.
Yeah, you gotta have a landlord that's gonna answer the phone too.
Yeah,
That's the other reason for the ordinance is that it's just,
so,
and you could write into your leases how to deal with that, with your tenant.
well, you can write lots of stuff into it,
Yeah,
but it's like,
and the other
so
thing is,
yard couch.
That's in our lease. No yard couches.
yeah,
Good call. In a different city, you would get a citation, you pay a fee, the end. But here we say, you get points, you get points, you get points, then if you get too many points, then you can't have your rental.
the rental license.
which is a recognition that the opposite of a bias against rentals, in my opinion, that's to encourage. And we want renters to be there and acknowledge this, we're also in college town.
So in other
Would-
cities,
It's really an encouragement to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
What it is.
in other cities, would you say, okay, I got 5 citations, now you don't get your rental license? Or they just keep getting citations for infinity?
I
Don't know.
think every city's
Different.
different.
So Daryl,
there's-
what are you saying? You prefer this or you'd rather get a citation?
no, I don't need a citation, but the nuances of college renters lends itself that I'll get annoyed with a certain number of letters that
So you want
I
to be
gotta
there.
teach the tenants. That, oh, you can't put that broken office chair at the curb. It doesn't magically disappear because I'm getting rid of it or I'm stuffing it in your garbage bin.
So you want either the landlord accountability or.
I would just soon get phone calls from whoever spots it as a violation.
It sounds like we try
That's
to.
done.
But I would say that I've made hundreds of those phone calls and that's fine when you get a landlord that answers, but.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, of landlord accountability for which really well, you get somebody calls in, neighbors are being loud music, police go there, you send 1 or 2 officers. They lock down the house, they're F you, they're not gonna let you in, they don't turn the noise down. We have officers out there dealing with for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And our only choice, your only choice, is to go to a judge if you want to do an administrative search warrant. Tie up 3, 4 officers for maybe 4 or 5 hours. And when you get in the house, still all you have is loud noise violation. All she can do is issue a citation for loud noise. So what works nice is to try and get it shut down for the night. We do the landlord accountability, refer it all to code enforcement in the morning in a big summary email. They push that forward to a landlord and within hours, you have a really helpful landlord dealing with it. And then we don't have that problem with that house anymore.
Like everybody learned.
That's been my experience. I don't look for a letter to come to me. I use it's like, hey, you can't have a couch on the front yard, for example. How come? It's against the ordinance. And if I can't run my business, you're not gonna stay. Oh, good enough. It's understandable.
And I would say I've been in hundreds of calls too, where you stand there, landlord straight out proud, but still can't get a hold of landlords. They're not all local.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you don't get your call back till the next shift is on duty, so,
Yeah,
That's what
so
I'm.
Leave it,
yeah.
I'd say for this item,
leave it.
unless let's just leave it and
But thanks for all that information on yard couches and landlord accountability.
We don't want to like sharp it.
Oh.
now if they just
Missed
put the trees.
opportunity.
All right, item K, enforce laws prohibiting illegal parking on private property. And I think I also called this out with item L, enforce over occupancy regulations. My question is, do we need items that say enforce a law? Or is there any reason? I'm guessing these were just at one time specific problems
Those are things.
and it was emphasizing them. So is there a reason these need
I
to
think
be in
in
here?
council's past, it was, hey, these are things we want to emphasize. So
I think they're right into the accountability ordinance that's otherwise code enforcement.
Otherwise, I just recommend removing them.
Remove.
Remove.
Motion seconded.
Second.
Any other discussion? Or thumbs up for removal?
Okay, now, Jen.
Waiting to see any response, Daryl, Aaron?
Go ahead. Although, you know, when you start thinking about it, by the same logic, why do we need to have, you know, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was actually going backwards with Jay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really boils down to the purpose of the document, I guess, in some ways. It just shows the things that we think about, reminds us to think about this same thing or anything else.
I can appreciate why they're on,
Yeah.
because it was a problem and a lot of times it still remains a problem.
So I guess my point is that there's no harm in keeping in there as reminder.
Right.
Of things past, like a historical record. I guess it depends on our view of the needs of the documents or.
Or if you don't matter, I'll probably through this next year, go through this and look at all those legacy items and probably just clean up this whole document anyway.
Like, when I went through this, I don't like how it's like, okay, so then in that same vein, then what are the issues that we're experiencing now that we're not specifically calling out?
Yeah.
And like, so then it's like, well, I don't wanna have to do that every single year. I'd like to not have these meetings be this long. If we're just be like, looks good, bye.
You really hated document 2 years ago.
Oh, my God. I would have, you're right.
Yeah, it really reads as a laundry list of pet peeves of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
It's
so,
like a list of priorities.
yeah.
yeah.
And all the light items are ones that we just skimmed over.
I think we're really like, not big enough to deal with.
Clean,
So we can vote, we just voted to remove those. Everyone's fine with that. Other ones,
clean it up in the future.
Continue to promote some cleanup.
yeah. Okay,
Put that. in-
Okay, I just want to say something though.
Clean up the stuff.
When all this enforced stuff comes up and then your constituents come and say, hey, you guys removed that out of the document. You didn't want us to do. That's not what that means.
I said I should clarify, if I can speak on behalf of everyone, still enforce those things. We just don't feel the need for the document to say enforces.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not saying that we're not,
Right.
the city staff, everyone's not doing that.
We're doing
We
it.
just don't need it stated in the thing.
We are.
We've just covered it under be proactive and code
help.
enforcement activity.
Just so everybody knows, this document has helped us in court cases,
For like some of those
Don't say
specific
that.
Oh,
callouts.
not those particular.
Okay, not those particular ones. Okay.
Now we're gonna have
Willy
that.
nilly throws that out.
Let's add the job description.
Well, let's just say through many different court cases during the PSO era.
We're gonna keep moving. Item 4C,
Craig twitch a little bit.
You
and I
you
said,
spoke of that.
evaluate how the expansion of the hours of operation for the yard waste drop-off site has impacted revenues and expenditures. Can't remember who,
Well, actually, this will be coming up, refuse studies coming up in a committee meeting next couple of weeks.
I hear nothing but good things from people.
Yeah.
My husband loves it.
Yard waste, oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, all day long.
Used
Just
to
wait till we
be
get
just
tomatoes going.
April and then.
Chase is like, but it's expensive.
October, November.
Yeah, that is, that is.
everything's free.
Is, it's, you keep it open longer, but a lot more people are there and you end up with, contractors dropping stuff off. We try to keep it to the residents, but. So,
Those aren't volunteer
Well,
staff to get.
In the
no, they're
evaluation.
not, they're paid employees.
Evaluation coming up, are they gonna have a way to license or charge a fee for contractors, tree trimmers?
So, no, I don't think we have that in there right now. And part of the reason is the facility we're at,
We're small.
it's, yeah. We're getting to a point where we also don't want to be taking the counties, we don't want to take Waterloo stuff and just other communities.
Right, understanding to the, is it the DNR of somebody that doesn't like us being in a floodplain with that facility?
I would say, that
Rumbling about.
I don't know that they've commented on it.
I've heard that.
Is there, I've heard there's a sign up there, but can we embolden that sign? They buy ordinance such and such only for City Falls residents. Or refuse to try to.
We do, and then when we staff it, we actually ask for some proof of.
Yeah, they have to check your ID.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, nod if I recommend it.
It's just put a
Danny always
flashing
did.
light on it and just occasionally turn the light on, to freak people out.
So it sounds like to keep this moving in that item. we're good with, because we're doing it currently.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were on page 16.
Yep.
6A. On 16, continue using lobbyists to influence municipally related legislative action, which then goes with 6A1. Continue the contract with a professional lobbyist to represent city interests to the state legislature. I know we kind of talked about this at council. You guys want to have any additional discussion on it? And this is direction for this next year, so I guess this would be a good time to talk about, is that the direction?
I think we engage with the League of Cities for this initiative in a fantastic way. And they keep us informed through the local leaders day. Adding in that extra expenditure, I don't know is 100% necessary. I do hear the value, because otherwise how do we get our voice heard down there? Well, that's why we have local leader legislative meetings. So if we're not talking to our state electeds that represent our area, shame on us. I don't want any citizenry saying, I don't want what they're saying done with my tax dollars. That's the other side of this coin, that I want to remove our paid lobbyists, because that would be akin to compelled speech for our taxpayers. So granted, they can make their voice heard by changing this body. If they don't like our decisions, there is recourse in that, but my preference would be we continue with League of Cities and continue with senators and House members to lobby for our city's interests.
That's exactly.
Protecting home rule and things of that nature, of course, we do want to protect, but there are other things that sometimes lobbyists are engaging in, not in our direction. I know we've already clarified that, but I just assume save that 25 grand.
Tend to agree with that, because in the municipal related legislative activities, our lobbyist would be the tiny voice amongst, big influences down there. I don't see it for spending the money. I don't think it moves the needle enough to say it's worth spending 25,000. That's what we got the local representatives for, to hear our concerns, just like we hear the concerns from citizens. So I don't see that it's that useful, much of an investment, let's say.
I'm assuming we get more than just have somebody down there as sort of the ears to the ground, so you know what's rumbling, what's to be coming down the pipe. And I understand that League of Cities fills that function in some ways, but it's always sort of related. I'm just talking about the advanced warning, what's been talked about. That's why you need the presence at the Capitol, like right now during legislative session. Right? Is that fair?
Oh, yeah.
And to think that our local legislators are that. Their primary goal is not to keep us informed about what's going on happening. Their primary goal is not to keep us informed about what's happening on those city issues. So I kind of like to have for that cheap, like frankly, 25,000 to have a seat at the table, no matter how small the chair is, Daryl. Well, I think we need to be there as a fairly substantial municipality in our state. That's my 2 thoughts, or 3, 2 cents.
I did a quick cursory glance. We're one of a few that pay lobbyists. I don't think it's common practice that we'd be violating any expectation. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it. I think there is some value, and we did get a briefing, hey, here's legislation that's being proposed this next session that might be harmful in some scope or beneficial to us in some scope, but I don't know about with our fiscal year and the budget calendar, how that lines up with timing. We get an update of what's happening in this current session. We've already established goals. We've already set budget for the next fiscal year. The time to be trying to lobby for anything would have been like last October with sophomore legislators. I don't know that it's as purposeful, and it's a money game. I looked at how much some of these folks are getting in lobbyist money, and it was over $300,000 to an individual. They're not going to be hurting because our 25 grand with this.
Well, if I can check quick, our contract with the firm we use now, what's the period of service of that contract? Because we just proved it.
Thought it was a year contract.
That's what I thought too.
Second year.
No, this is
No, I
the
think
first
we're
year.
back
We
in-
just
I
redid
pitched a
it.
fit when we approved it.
Right.
Same,
That's right.
same thing.
So, the 25,000 we're paying is more than just monitoring, to your point. You know, it's nice to be aware of things. But someone as myself, who's been involved with hiring a lobbyist for now like 15 years for our trade organization. We never get anywhere near 25,000 to be covered from state for landlords of Iowa. And other Greater Iowa Apartment Association, Iowa Landlord Association, and there's others out there that collectively we pay 17,000 to cover the whole state. And then there's other organizations that to do monitoring, I know like the nurses and some of these others that hired some of our same lobbyists that we dealt with these last 15 years, they would get 3 or 4 or 5,000 to monitor legislation. So,
We negotiate the contract.
well, I'm just pointing out numbers, numbers I what I need.
So for the sake of this thing, is we do have a contract with the existing firm.
Which one? Give me the name of the firm. again.
Colton Murphy.
That's right.
So is there any direction we want to change or changes to this that are being proposed? I don't remember specifically who called it out, but is there a proposed change?
I would strike as it stands, A and 1, and just move A2 to A.
I want to point out, I just looked up the registered lobbyists during this legislative session, and Bettendorf, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Corville, Davenport, Des Moines, Iowa City, Marion, Waukee, and West Des Moines all have registered lobbyists. So West Des Moines, Waukee, Marion, Iowa City, Des Moines, Davenport, Corville, Cedar Rapids, us, and Bettendorf. Basically, all of the by population. I hesitate to call us major, but.
Like I thought. Yeah, 10, 11.
Yeah,
There's 800 and some cities in there.
I don't wish to make a change. I can just echo what.
I'm fine with it as it is.
Well, we really can't change it till 3 more years.
Right. We can't void the contract. We can change this guiding document.
But either way, I don't wish to make a change.
we have a motion.
I'd be in favor of changing it.
So motion second is to kind of remove A and 1 and just leave item 2, continue membership. Any other discussion? All those in favor? And all opposed?
By consensus,
Right.
By consensus, it's not passed.
taking Kevin's lead there, not a vote, just consensus.
Correct, we're not voting then, by consensus.
Nice caveat.
Okay, moving on to page 17, fiscal year 26 detailed objectives, CF, review downtown incentives following adoption of new zoning to consider the increase in assessed value and to incentivize enhanced architectural design or public benefits.
That was me. What is this? And how does it differ from tax abatement?
That's what this is,
Great.
urban renewal and urban revitalization.
So I know something you had asked, as it says review, is it more of a continue to review type of thing, where now we're kind of moving it to an ongoing?
We did review it this year. And made some changes.
Because I would say to me, that is something we should continually review. It's not something that's there for perpetuity. So I'd maybe,
At least following adoption of new zoning, since that was 4 years ago.
That's a good call.
yeah,
What's up, Pat?
so maybe change it to continue to review downtown incentives, strike the following adoption of zoning.
Yeah. Yes.
So it'd be continue to review downtown incentives to consider the increase in assessed value and to incentivize enhanced architectural design or public benefits.
Great.
All in favor of that?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Item J, continue to explore options for city support of expanded daycare options in Cedar Falls.
That was me. And I said, how are we doing this? And do we want to consider something more specific? I know, like we talked about, land out in the industrial park, or I know there's some like conversation or whatever we've talked about. If we could help, then could we offer an incentive like that? The city, like city staff could potentially use that daycare or whatever. I don't know if we want to expand on that conversation as opposed to just exploring options, or if that's vague enough. Just want to get out there.
Well, I feel, not to tell me if I'm wrong, but this is, I feel like maybe was I the one that got this on there?
I think
can't
there's
remember.
more than one.
Okay, great. Obviously, it wasn't just me, but it's been a topic of conversation for me since 2020. And I feel like now this year was and obviously people supported getting on, but now I feel like we had a whole nother conversation where we might be. I guess we don't know yet what we're gonna do we? We gave direction during the previous goal setting sessions that we were okay with moving forward to exploring and nailing down what might actually help. It might not be a building, it might be something else like supporting staff.
Because my thought would be is we don't know more specifics yet than explore options.
You would have highlighted it before we even had that conversation, so I'm okay
Yeah.
with like nailing down more, but
So maybe we say,
I don't
maybe
know that
we say something more specific about. Like, I mean, continuing to explore options, I feel like. I don't know, this is just me, if it was already in here, then we were already doing that. Or does it just need to wait until next year, that we can be more specific?
My thought was probably leave it as is, because I think that's as detailed as we know right now,
right,
because we don't know
it might not be a building.
what the
it
option
might not-
is.
Sure, we don't know what it is, might be lots of different
Because
things.
I think we got that direction from the previous sessions, is at least still an interest to continue looking
Yeah.
at it, we just don't know what yet. So I'd say
Leave
it is still irrelevant as is for this current year.
Okay, great.
Any motion to change it?
No.
Okay, next is explore the establishment and of incentive policy for residential districts. I think you threw a hand up, but it's really because we did that this year.
Yeah.
So again, do we want to edit this to say continue to review incentive policies for residential districts?
Update the language, so
Yes.
it reflects what we're doing.
Okay, do we have all those in favor of reviewing it to reflect continue? All opposed? Got that, Jen? All right, item B2B, monitor economic development cash subsidies to CMS, CHP, GCB, CFPDC to determine the value to Cedar Falls citizens and businesses. And we'll discussion wise kind of put this with C to continue to support the efforts of Cedar Falls Economic Development Corp. and advance the Cedar Falls economic interests. I can give a quick update. Attended CFPDC's last board meeting Friday before last. They are right now kind of doing a reset. They're working with you and I, have Randy Pilkington and their team come in to kind of just from blank slate, look at what's their role now, what's their reason for existing, what's the mission. They kind of know why they exist high level to support economic development. I think they are well aware that they're at a point of inflection of looking at having done some work. What's the next step of the organization? So they're working on that before they reapproach us with discussion requests on what they think their mission or objectives are going to be going forward. So I would say may still be some conversation in the future, but they're at this point having those conversations to see where they're going as a group.
Have they or you or anybody said to them that comments have been made that they're just duplicative of Cedar Valley?
Yeah, so we talked through a lot of
Yeah.
things. One, concerns that were brought up during the council session about just operational issues, things of that. But then also too, and they are very aware of, and that's why they took a complete pause and step back, was I think they acknowledge now that things are in a new state, they don't really know what's the next step of what value can they add. Until they know what value they can add, there's really no discussion on whether we funding or not funding. So the plan is, I think, for you and I and their team to kind of meet with all the board directors, talk through them, what do they see the value in, look at other models across the country, what are other places doing, and try to come back with, they may come back and decide there's no need for a next step. They may come back with a different model.
Well, they can take some of their efforts and morph into Grove Cedar Valley and enhance.
That was part of the discussion too, was
I
possible
mean, I'd like to see
collaboration
that
there.
because we're, it's a Cedar Valley, just like the name says, Grove Cedar Valley. Why would we say Grove Cedar Falls, but not include the other parts?
And there's
We're not
some,
in a competition with
Yeah.
like Waterloo. Things, historical nature, been that way. So
there's some things there they'll be working through.
So should we remove this item or should we?
Sit on it or?
My suggestion is to get rid of C, because that's too specific,
Yeah,
and change B to consider contributions to economic development organizations such as CMS, CHP, CB, whatever.
you don't even need to label, make a laundry list.
It's true. If,
Right.
do we just want to take the laundry list out?
The question is, what do we call those? Nonprofit economic development organizations?
That's what we call it right there.
That.
And we have policy guiding those engagements on the first page, short-term financial plan, applications for city funding support, et cetera. I think we removed B and C. We've called out our unique engagement with Grove Cedar Valley outside of Shane's office.
yes.
So I think we just continue those two. I mean, maybe we call out CMS and CHP because they do, as we learned last week, you know, there's a extensive work that goes into that partnership as they do it. I'm okay with that, but they're two different folks as a regional and then for our citizens with CMS and CHP.
But maybe we do leave it general because maybe someone else like wants to establish something similar in a different part of Cedar Falls.
So on the
So continue to,
Development group.
so you say continue to review economic development cash subsidies to determine value.
Yeah.
Cedar Falls residents and businesses.
Then it's interesting too, because it's under regional economic development, which
Right.
Grove Cedar Valley
So
better
maybe we
fits as
should-
opposed to Collettville Partnership.
So maybe we should remove regional from that, from item 2.
And just have it be
Well,
economic
well,
development.
further clarity, it's not a cash subsidy to CMS and CHP. It's a SMID district. We facilitate with funding them, the portion of their SMID district to them, but that's not a regional.
We do also give,
Right.
like CMS is
Strike
20,000.
B and C would be the simplest way to maintain the
Your,
regional economic development.
Why don't you go further and take the item number C1, excuse me, C2 and make it C1M. Continue regional economic development. And then next one, number 3 becomes number 2, regional tourism.
We're just kind of eliminating this section and just creating an item under
Yeah,
general
because-
economic development
Right, yeah.
objectives.
General economic, and then you go regional. Well,
Catch that, Jim?
Yep,
Yeah,
So
I'm
that
in
we
favor, I'm in
Yes.
favor of that,
Two-way become M,
because, yeah,
Yep.
right?
yeah.
yes.
and 3 becomes 2, then 4 becomes 3, and 5 becomes
you're
4.
good at
So
that.
on, so on.
You're
You already wrote it down.
It has been struck.
It has been struck.
One thing I would ask the staff quick is, I know a lot of times it does help to have a specific mention of partners for funding, just so staff knows we do intend to fund them, like for College Hill Partnership and CMS. Are they called out in other places in this document? And or do we need to have them called out?
Well,
Or-
as Dustin indicated, outside agencies that are looking for those funds have to come through and their application is considered by this body annually.
And those two.
Yeah.
So there's guiding principles there.
Yeah.
And that gives us the opportunity to explore other entities not named. We did that with Met a couple of years ago. Hey, do we say anything or just leave it up to whomever might provide?
So it'd be new item M, that would just read as item A. Continue regional economic development partnership with Grove Cedar Valley, or
Yeah.
just making that M?
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Okay, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all opposed? All right, seeing none, good
We
there.
have a consensus.
We have a consensus. All right, 4A, develop a grading ordinance for all new and existing developments. I think, Anna, did you pull that or did I pull that?
What is it? 4?
Like surface grading?
4.
I think that's why I pulled it, because I was wondering, like, that's very specific. Is that something we've accomplished?
What is this?
So there's a goal to actually get a grading ordinance, which would be something that if a developer is gonna go out, right now, they can just go out and do whatever they push dirt around with no plan. Could impact the drainage on their property, could impact the wetlands, could impact the wooded areas, whatever.
I guess
And for instance,
that's not.
Are we
the
doing that?
Entire, they gotta maintain 70% ground cover, and if it's not disturbed for 2 weeks, they gotta stabilize it and all that.
They could, after they're done doing whatever grading they want to.
But if it sits, my understanding, if it sits undisturbed for 2 weeks, they dig a foundation and then they go off somewhere and do another project. They gotta stabilize it, and that's usually the green mulch, what they call it, hydroseed, or maybe there's some seed in it, but green. Move the dirt-
Hydroseed, yes.
move the dirt down. I mean, that's my understanding. So we have
That's on a smaller basis. What this is meaning something that's gonna be 5, 10, 15 acres of where
well,
they're out
So to
there.
hand this question, did we?
We
develop
do
a
not
grading
have a grading ordinance.
Okay, so we need to do that.
We want that to be
Well-
a goal
Got it.
still.
let's
Let's do it.
Let's ask what developers think the cost is gonna add to the developments and subsequently the price of the lots.
Won't know that until we develop an ordinance, figure out what it is.
Well,
Proposed ordinance.
we have,
It'll have to be
we
adopted.
have coming up, Danny, right, the developing evaluation, developing code evaluation,
Yeah,
and preferably as soon as possible. That would be a component. Right?
Okay.
so do we wanna
Yeah.
propose a change?
No.
With this, or just leave it as is, knowing there's still work going on?
This is a to be determined.
Great. Leave it.
Okay. Next is conduct a comprehensive review of the development process to ensure streamlined, high-quality service that supports your policy growth, aligns with community needs, and fosters sustainable development. I think you wrote that.
I did. So again, a thing we're doing. So we should do it in here.
And that, if I can clarify, I believe is the development task force
Yeah.
we've talked about, still need to get a specific date scheduled. Are you wanting to add that so we're explicitly stating
We're doing that
we're doing that?
and the process of reviewing and ensuring.
This will be along the lines of your idea.
Oh,
of
check.
Preset plans. Right?
No,
And-
this would be different. This would be development task force to review, like just work to go through our process, look at any potential changes.
Right, but I was thinking of your idea of also part of that process, that might be a recommendation for the preset plans, right?
Oh, yeah, great.
Okay. I'm sorry. Now you're in my head. Please get out.
So
Okay.
motion to add that item? Needs a second?
Sure.
Yeah, second.
we just need consensus, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but consensus, thumbs up? Or any other discussion first? Seeing none? Any thumbs downs? Okay,
Just being the downer guy, I just want to point out, and we'll get to this maybe a little bit in the last section, but workload's beginning to be a big,
Yeah, come on, Rod.
Noted, Ron, I hear ya.
It doesn't have a date of completion, so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would put
Yeah,
this one,
so work for it.
This is not high on my, but that's just me.
I don't know that I prioritize this one yet.
it's,
But it's in.
Yep, it's in there.
I get pish poshed, so.
all right, item 5.
Actually, this is a high priority because
You're
of
supposed
the
to do
cost
that
of
to
our
other people's
developing.
passion project, not mine.
I'll say that item we'll be discussing timelines for, and
Okay. And that's presumably what this time.
so item 5, zoning ordinance, economic development objectives. A, support the development of a comprehensive new zoning ordinance to update the zoning ordinance first adopted in 1970, consider new zoning and traffic control regulations to control density, reckon problems reducing the number of multiple family and duplex conversions. This was a lot of stuff packed into one. Also wasn't sure how long this has been here, if this has been an ongoing thing, if it's
I just propose deleting, consider new zoning and traffic control regulations to control density and parking problems by reducing the number of multiple family and duplex conversions.
Yeah, I'm in favor of getting rid of the second sentence and just keep it perfect.
The multiple family duplex conversions.
Yeah.
Get rid of that.
Sounds a little renter reverse.
Yes.
So,
Bias, if you will.
so it'd be support the development,
Just the first sentence.
this person's,
Get rid of the second sentence.
I'm not excited about that because the assumption is that the 1970 ordinance has not been adopted and changed gazillions of times.
That's all the problem.
Well, you can't. I'm gonna spend a whole night on that. I see, for example, the mid-level, what's it called?
Density.
Market rental code or MU code or whatever it is. 14.4 units per acre. We have problems. Autumn Ridge had a big. What's going on with the developer, Meadow Ridge now. There's other areas in town. We've adopted economic development in a part of town that already is built. Last council meeting. The path we go down on this has got to be evaluated. We got to evaluate what we've done so far and the ill effects of what that's brought about. And the effect it has on current citizens and the current housing.
I'm in favor of actually just putting a period after support the development of the comprehensive new zoning ordinance. Or at least to look at the zoning ordinance. I would encourage you to take a look at the map of our city. And of interest, of course, is that we have a big swath of R2 through the city. There's one little square that's R3. So I drilled down on the map and I looked and it's the old nursing home on 12th Street. Which clearly somebody back in the day said, we want to have a nursing home here. And they said, well, we need to rezone that. So we rezoned a lot.
There's also,
Seriously.
the, UNI credit union or something off of 29th.
all right back.
There's a little tiny square of R3 there.
Yeah. So my point is, I think it's important to look at that.
So what if we were to, because I think the
Are you
goal
in
is,
favor of your best friend or are you, not?
I didn't call out anybody. I just mentioned the property.
so what if it was worded as, support the
And these
review,
These are two anyway.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Reviews,
so support the review of review and development of a comprehensive new zoning or comprehensive zoning ordinance. Period.
Great.
What does
Of
that
an
mean?
updated comprehensive. So essentially saying we want to review and update,
Kind of do that already.
we did it all.
because we kind of already had that discussion goal setting is we want to go through and dig in
Yeah.
to the whole thing and not just piecemeal everything.
Best way,
Yeah.
Ron.
Why did we have to
Like
change
an electric.
development?
Like my bird.
'Cause I think the concern I'm hearing is just that, and I kind of heard this, I feel like last time we talked about it, is concern that that means throwing everything out with the whole new thing. I think we talked about this. My intent was, we just need to dig in and review.
Right.
And look at the whole thing, not necessarily saying we're gonna throw everything out and rebuild. All new, it's just kind of looking at whether all the changes we need to,
Yeah, I don't read it as, I mean, if you're doing something right, most people with any sort of brain would be like, we should keep doing that. So you've reviewed it, but you're also developing a new plan, but you might keep some of the old stuff. But you're also gonna maybe fix it, but that's just how I.
I would hopefully we keep a lot of it. Because that's what built the city.
Might.
I won't rock and roll.
I was gonna say rock and roll.
Before rock and roll.
how did you have the first sentence worded
I just deleted the second sentence and left it as is.
in your chat GPT
Yeah.
version? Support the development of a
Hold
comprehensive.
on, hold on. We'll be done with second. Support the development of a comprehensive new zoning ordinance to update, yeah, that's what I said, I left it as is. And just deleted the second sentence.
So if we just left it as support the development of a comprehensive new zoning ordinance to update the zoning ordinance first adopted in 1970, knowing what that means is we just want to review our existing one and look at what improvements can be made, what updates need to be made.
I'm good with that.
I think it's, putting the 1970 thing in there is just to highlight to the fact that it's the
been
first
full
comprehensive review
1970.
we've done it. It's been patchwork ever since, right? So, well, with some exceptions.
So I'm fine doing that, or just saying support development of a comprehensive news ordinance, zoning ordinance.
I don't care, it doesn't matter that
We
much.
don't need first adopted in 1970, because we go back to the 1800s with parts of town and
So just,
not specifically rewritten into 1970.
Yeah, my idea was just to put a period on it.
yeah, so motion would be support the development of a comprehensive new zoning ordinance,
Period,
Period.
great.
Thumbs up.
period. Thumbs up, all in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? Okay. Item 2, right below that, you can see there's just a cleanup, taking and the old high school out of there because that's been. Anybody opposed to that change?
Reword just a couple items in there. Initiate work to develop a neighborhood plan, exploring the redevelopment of the Sartori Hospital site.
Yep, so initiate
Those two types,
work to develop a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Plan,
as opposed to neighborhood B.
exploring the development of the Sartori Hospital site. And so forth. Okay. Item B, consider changes to zoning regulations to limit the conversion of single-family properties to rental uses to protect neighborhood stability and character. I might have put that in just because as we also took the funding out for that program, just a question of, is that still a priority for this year?
I think we should not have that in there. We're talking about re-examining our zoning. I don't want it to be put in that. Plus, I think our priorities for housing are kind of dictated by other areas too. For the other concerns, affordable housing, things like that.
Well,
We don't want to limit the types necessarily.
yeah, I mean, when we take away bedrooms when the property sells to supposedly stabilize the neighborhood, that's a farce. That doesn't stabilize the neighborhood at all. You got empty rooms in a property that can't be used and have a shortage of housing. Just go on.
I'm in favor of having it removed and so moved.
Motion to remove item B?
So, and the thought is because we're gonna be working on everything. Okay, fine, I can get down with that.
So motion and second, just to remove item B?
Yeah,
Any further discussion?
this one explicitly says, take a single family dwelling and don't let anybody rent there.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Which sounds like was probably a priority at the time. Okay, all those in favor? They've kind of already had, anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, consensus. Okay, 6. I think the whole section may have been highlighted, but also 6B. So we'll just do 6B, quick review city construction standards to identify possible changes which can promote the construction of affordable housing.
That's what we're gonna be doing, right?
Jose, I don't know who pulled that out separately.
I don't know, matter. I mean, it's part of evaluating, we over regulate when people are building and making subdivisions. They're not
Yeah.
competitive with other cities around us.
So it might have just been to highlight that we do have that in there is to make sure we're looking at possible changes which can promote construction of affordable housing. For construction standards. Okay, did anybody? Okay, item K, following that, continue the forgivable loan program for conversion of rental properties to owner occupied, expanding service area.
I put a note in there just to put it on hold until 2028 for the increased support of the natatorium. Okay, to kick so many projects out of our current goals.
Yeah.
To react to that request.
If you just took the other one out, why would you leave this in?
So yeah, I think that's what we're proposing is remove this.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor?
I
All opposed? Consensus for that. The downtown area economic development objectives, explore all options to build a downtown parking structure in conjunction with a feasibility study, a continual reevaluation of paid parking options. Hannah, did you?
Yeah, this was the one where I wanted to change the wording to be specific about how we're not just gonna put up a parking structure without more, like, to back that up, why we're doing it, how we're helping, whatever.
Remember, you had a beautifully worded.
I did, hold on, I got
don't
it.
explore our
Here we
options to
go.
increase downtown parking, period.
Develop a plan, it's kind of wordy. Okay. Develop a plan for downtown that demonstrates the potential future commercial growth to help with understanding the implications of paid parking and establishing a clear actionable timeline for a potential parking ramp. This plan will assess expansion areas, forecast parking needs, and build community trust through transparent goals and milestones for sustainable growth. It's a lot of work.
What'd you say, Aaron?
I said, explore our options to increase downtown parking.
There you go. I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. Sadly, I think that would cost $100,000.
Yeah,
We already have the feasibility study,
yep.
so that part can be taxed anyway.
So do you guys want to recommend a change to it or just leave it as is?
No, we got to change it because we already did the study.
Downtown
Yeah.
parking.
I change it to
So-
what Aaron's wording.
Explore all options to increase downtown parking.
So motion,
Right.
You come around to-
Parking.
Well,
I think that's part of all the options in my opinion, so.
Does that give enough direction? I mean, we want to continue with the paid parking implementation as per another directive that supersedes this goal, objective statement.
Mhm.
The staff
There's
meetings.
a concern in my mind. I know I'm for having ample parking, but just carte blanche saying we want more parking, dang it, isn't maybe the solution we need, especially with, if we do invest in some transit options and we increase bikeability, et cetera, we don't really want to increase parking without warrant. So the feasibility does need to make it,
it's kind of why I hesitated on it, just because it says the only goal is more
yeah.
well.
versus saying,
It's exploring the options.
I
So
like the explore all options.
And it doesn't necessarily mean more, like, there's all different kinds of ways.
Yep.
We don't wanna get
But then
into
the parking
that there
structure.
could be more available parking.
The seventies come back in style, maybe moped gangs come back, just saying.
I mean, if
Although-
Can
parking,
we leave it as written?
Explore all options and continue to evaluate downtown parking.
there you go. I'll accept the friendly amendment.
You're close. Explore all options,
What do you
find it
want?
out with the feasibility study.
I mean, I feel like this is just my thing. I think that what we heard from people in our brief moments about paid parking was that they wanted to feel like if we were gonna change something, it was with reason, that,
What's the reason for it? Where's it going?
right? So, I think to say, like, to have some kind of,
How about this? Continue to monitor downtown parking needs and explore all options to address them.
perfect,
So do your jobs.
Well,
there you go.
I mean, it's an ongoing thing. It's been an ongoing thing
Yeah.
for 30 years.
and the financial shortfall for the parking program.
Is real.
is a real thing.
That's part of the exploring the options.
Yeah.
Cost is the cost.
So continue to monitor downtown parking needs and explore, well, writing and talking, and explore
Options.
All- options to address them.
Yes.
Option to address the parking shortage.
No, just address the
Balance
needs,
with the
whatever.
parking program. Yeah.
To,
Part-time staff.
okay, so it would be motion to change it to continue to explore downtown, or excuse me, continue to monitor downtown parking needs and explore all options to address them.
Great,
Perfect. Second.
beautiful.
There.
Bumps, baby.
What? How dare you? Let the record reflects. I disagree with, so all those in favor? Yep. Consensus? Okay. Next we got 12B, extend sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved and remain on septic systems, i.e. South Main Street. Can't remember who pulled that. Chris is deeply passionate about this topic.
Right, we either get rid of it or we get rid of the E. IE.
Yeah, because it's kind of, I mean,
Do we have other areas?
Yeah.
there are.
Oh, hey, I pulled this.
Oh, wow.
As requested by residents or required by county, remove IE Main Street.
Oh, so you were proposing to say if
Extend
requested or,
sanitary sewer to areas as requested by residents or required by county.
All residents?
I'm not.
It's pretty big, you know, petition.
I think when it says extend sanitary sewer areas, it doesn't necessarily mean shove it down people's throat.
Yeah.
It's just the goal that says we need to
Right.
have everybody plugged in eventually, and how we get there, as we know from the South Main project, that can take a lot of different iterations as we work with the public to do it.
Well, I just want to avoid unfunded mandates from us onto our citizens.
Well, I might
I get
recommend,
Have a health issue in some cases. That's not the argumentation for that one in particular, but.
So I don't like the assumption that septic tanks have to be eliminated in city limits. Because septic systems can function for decades and decades in a sanitary manner, works very well.
Right,
And
and
the entire rural community.
this says extend the sanitary sewer to the areas. So in other words, sanitary sewer will be out there.
Yeah.
For people to connect to,
If they
when that,
choose.
if they so choose, or when that time comes, or when the county doesn't certify or whatever. So it's making sure that our sanitary sewer is out there. You know, not just for existing, not just for existing septic, but for future developments, and things like that.
So maybe you could just say extend sanitary sewers to areas that are unserved.
if I could maybe recommend something, it might be saying, continue to review extension of sanitary sewer to areas that are underserved and remain on septic systems when feasible.
Yeah, sure.
But we don't do anything if it's not feasible, right?
Well, I think that's why I put
We
it in
can
there
do
is,
anything, we just can't do everything.
because this does say just do it.
When we.
It doesn't really say, it's just kind of saying extend sanitary sewer. I know it's wording of it, but
It's just a goal, though. The goal is, doesn't mean we have to do it. There's lots of stuff on here we haven't done yet. Just my thoughts. I don't care if you take the South Main thing out, because it's not just South Main, but.
yeah.
Do we want to be limited by the and remain on septic systems? Are there circumstances where you want to do the extension that? I've asked.
New areas.
Obviously,
Yeah.
new areas,
We're
right?
doing the new areas. Public hearing next.
So I don't like it being modified or connected to it and remain on. I think it should be more general. So I'm in favor of amending to extend sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved, period.
But is there, like, sometimes I think about, like, what if we all died tomorrow and somebody's trying to figure out what was this goal? Like. If
So some of it was-
if the septic and remain on septic system, like, we already do the other thing.
Well, but I mean, to me, the goal is to extend the sewer to places that doesn't exist where people are. Whether, you know, and presumably in some cases, they'll be on septic, presumably some places will be in new development. But we can't necessarily compel the connection, you know, and so, well,
Well, it's kind of what we are doing on South Main Street.
well,
Extend it.
we're putting it out there and giving the options on how we compel it, right? So I guess,
So we're compelling it not to want that.
Eventually,
eventually, I think that's my thing.
but it is compelled. You'll eventually have to do this.
So, and I think it's an eventuality from the county. for that
Doesn't matter.
I was gonna say from the county standpoint,
Yeah,
Just say under and uncertain.
I just think uncertain.
Under.
It's underserved would be what, half
As
of
long
my?
as it doesn't take away from, like, the future, when people are like, why, yeah, as long as it still makes sense to
Have it, rest us.
buy it.
Then
even if-
what's,
Say, quick run,
What's the-
background on this. What was the initial goal of including that specific call out for this?
So this is kind of an interesting process sitting here with, knowing where a lot of this stuff came from other council members that specifically they would identify it. And again, you know, you go back 3 or 4 years, this document looks so much different. It was just really just a document of bullet points that went down through here. So there's been a lot of changes in some of the organization, but this particular one was, really to identify South Main as a targeted area that the council wanted to go and look at. And it's been in there for quite some time.
So from a broader city standpoint, like, do you think this even needs to exist? I mean, I know we're addressing the South Main now, and that was an area. Do we need specific direction on this in here, or is it something we're,
Just like Aaron said, after unserved, period. But you don't get occupancy if you don't have sewer.
other than
Oh,
new
you
construction?
don't Build a house if there's sewer.
Yeah.
Subdivision. Okay, so where are we gonna,
by our council goals, these 7 people. You're saying extend sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved. Put them out into the green belt. Put our sewer runs out into the lake. No, we have to have a particular purpose. So do we just eliminate this one? Say, we'll continue to build as we build. I mean, you don't put in a house without sewer. We don't let people live there without some type of sanitary system within our city bounds.
Aren't there people
So,
like out in North Cedar and there's other areas
Yeah, there's a
in
lot
town that we would
of-
want to
yeah,
consider.
so unless we're saying, hey,
Is it 400 homes? Is that what we look at? 400 homes
That are
or?
not,
so
that are.
that's my point is, unless we're saying we want to get them dadgum septic systems out of here, why are we talking about this?
I mean, I do want to get these daggone septic systems
Why?
out of here, cause they're notoriously not great, like.
And then Mark, that's it, whether they need to get rid of their septic and come to us, lights out maintenance.
They're just as efficient as a sewer plant.
When they work, but then they don't work. They work for the people flush their toilet and the poo goes down and they say it's working. But we don't know what's happening underground. Whereas if they're hooked up to the septic system, we don't. That's what I don't, like. And that's why the DNR, the county, whatever says, you gotta get those out of here.
But they haven't said that. I think that's a misunderstanding.
I mean, they don't love them. They're not like big septic fans.
They're leaking, they
They
don't love that.
regulate them and,
And they don't like sewer plants when they don't work either, so it's,
And they
That's why,
overflow in the rivers.
yeah, so it's,
They overflow in the rivers all the time. There's major downpours. Septic tanks should not be ostracized as something that we have to get rid of.
Right.
It just shouldn't be.
I don't have a hate specifically as a farm kid to septic systems. And what I do have a concern about is as a person who lives in this community, I think a lot of people don't even know that we have areas where there's septic systems. And the concern I have or think of is, the quality of the water that we all are, it's, if one person's septic is failing and they're not addressing it. That's a problem, not just for them, it's really a problem for everyone. So I guess it's not a hate of septic systems. And I know they can function and all the things, but I guess the discussion about this goal, I would like to see the goal remain. If we want to take up South Mainford, I just don't want the goal, I guess, if everybody wants the goal to go away, that's one thing, but if the goal stays, I just don't want it to not convey what it needs to convey to the people who read this document.
Well, we can vote it up or down. My motion will be to extend sanitary sewer areas that are unserved, period.
Second one.
that works.
I guess I think that's a detailed goal to where. Well, we're saying extend sewers. It's not enough of the goal, detailed
I
objective.
think it's probably,
I'm sure.
I think it's pretty understood that unserved means those properties where you would have sanitary sewer, and it's otherwise not there.
So I guess that might be my clarification. Speaking from a staff standpoint, are you guys giving direction that you want a focus on replacing septic systems with sanitary
It's not what
sewer?
it says.
That, I know, I'm just making sure that that's
Just
clear, that you're not voting for that, because I hear you guys kind of talking on the whole, the intent of this is to try and place septic, but it doesn't really say that. It's just saying extend sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved.
which is a way to say have the infrastructure in place.
Right, so then that way, if a person is on septic, then when their septic fails, then they can connect to the sewer.
So let me play, or they can repair their septic.
Let me play an
Well, the
advocate.
county, that's what the county calls it.
Like a developer comes, repair.
Hold on one second, guys.
So the developer comes and says, hey, you guys as a council said you're gonna extend sanitary sewer to the areas of the city that are unserved. So why haven't you put in infrastructure to my property so that I can build on it? You want to foot the bill for that sewer. You said you want to.
This doesn't say city will pay for it. It says the goal of the city is to extend the sewer services. How we do that by development agreements, by construction is all a specific ask, a specific contract, a specific development. It just says in general, the goal is to extend that infrastructure to those areas, period. I think it's a good goal. I'm in favor of it.
Yes. We have motion and a second for that one.
No, because it isn't specific enough to me.
So
What
you want
area
it to
of-
say,
What area are you proposing for language? Just eliminate it or leave it and remain on septic. Because what areas of town aren't served that have lived-in properties? on them? They either have sanitary
Septic
sewer
or-
or septic. That's your only two options.
you're telling me people don't have houses.
Correct, nobody has options. So they might have them in the south, but I don't care. Extending the sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved is a proactive thing. We're doing that in a leg out west of town, right? By choice, in that one in particular. Where else are we going to extend the sanitary sewer to these unserved areas?
To be determined.
I think this is, again, detailed objectives, where let's determine them before removing. Because we'll do it as part of a growing city. I don't want somebody coming in later and saying, hey, you guys said you're gonna do it. This council's goal is to run sewer. So you guys should run sewer. That are unserved, okay. We're not gonna have a grid of sewer
That's why
everywhere in
maybe
town.
and remain on septic systems is important, because that kind of says where the goal is. That, to me, that's the where.
Although the motion was to remove the and remain on septic
Okay.
portion.
And my point is,
I don't think it necessarily needs to be limited by that. It's broader without that.
and that's my only hangup is, it's too broad without that, and I don't agree that we need to ostracize septic system properties. So I'm not in favor of leaving that or saying just we're gonna send it all over the place without some directive, because it's a detailed objective. That's why it said South Main Street last time, so they knew where the frick we were talking about.
I said example, South Main Street, not.
Let's say,
to
keep us moving forward. My feeling is, since this item is on here, we don't really know what ultimately we're trying to accomplish with it, other than to encourage us to continue making sure sanitary sewer is available. I think we're not all trying to accomplish the same thing with this item. So I don't think there's a,
Does it warrant a specific call out? For septic or for,
I mean,
or is it a necessity of a growing city? You have to run sewer, yes, Shay? Sorry, Chase?
Except we are working on the South Main project and we've added other things as goals that are currently in motion.
so quick here, I'm gonna pause. And you'll probably hate me for this, Ron. I'm gonna ask you for your opinion. Only because I think we don't really, from an operational standpoint, know why do we really need this? So what's your opinion on what are we actually trying to accomplish with this item? From a staff side, what direction are you looking for based on what you've heard so far on this?
Yeah, I hate you. But
It's not just.
Not just limited to this.
That's true, I didn't clarify that.
But honestly, probably two things. One is, as we presented in the goal setting, and we did show a number of areas that don't have sewer. And in order to continue that, that would be one thing, extend sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved. That would be one thing. But the other is, is it this council's goal to do South Main? We've gotten so far down the road that at some point it's gonna come to a vote, but if the council's not interested in doing the South Main, then let's not.
Well, Ron, it depends on who pays for South Main.
So I can
Well-
quick, so we
well,
don't get
so-
into the rabbit hole of that conversation. I would say we've already shown, like, we've already voted for staff to move forward with that. We're just trying to clarify all the details with it. So I think that's moving forward. We'll still have to vote to finalize it. But I think that's moving forward separate of this line item. Like, if we take this out, I don't think that means we're saying, don't do South Main. That to me is already going. And we'll still have to vote to finalize that, but this is what's the direction we're trying to accomplish from this item going forward beyond just South Main Street.
I'm still in favor of this goal as amended. I think there was a offered amendment in second by Mr. Cruz. I know this isn't formal, but I think I'm ready to vote on it and let the chips fall. You said call question. I was gonna, I didn't want to get all formal though. I was trying to toe the line between being
So
formal.
we'll take an unofficial,
It's like if it's.
take an unofficial call to question then if the motion is to approve it as extended sanitary sewer to areas that are unserved, period. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, consensus. All right, we got 20 minutes, about 3 more pages to get through, so. Say street improvements, we had the whole section highlighted, but I think it was just, we talked about a lot of them in previous goal setting for what's coming up. We had the additions of item 8, Prairie Parkway and Green Hill Road reconstruction, and item 9, Round and Green Hill reconstruction. I know we talked about those as part of the road construction. Are we still wanting to look at adding these, or?
Well, I don't think it's that, I didn't get any vibe that I recall of not wanting to do those. I think it was also in that conversation during the earlier parts of goal setting was we have many other things that are going on for road construction that have been waiting for a bit. First one I think of is Union Road. So
If I recall correctly, we had a big kind of itemized schedule on years that would go out for a lot of these projects. Even some of them went out past our 5-year CIP, just looking at what, there's study on Hudson Road, Green Hill, and a number of those on kind of proposed timelines. And some of those.
Is there a way to pin this somewhere else, like unfunded CIP or something, just as a reminder that you look at it somewhere, but you know what I mean?
Well, this isn't a CIP, this is just general goals.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So if number 8's proposed in 2030 in your current CIP, number 9 is unfunded right now. Hopefully it'll make the CIP in the early 2030s.
Right, yeah, right, that's what I remember, we're well out past that 5-year.
Which, and then again, with the preface that if some big development or something's an opportunity there, that road might get expedited as part of a development, but.
I'm fine with leaving it, as it is, right,
Yeah.
the amendment to add them, because it's just a general add, whereas the other ones kind of show in progress, right?
And I would clarify, I wanted to add it in similar fashion with the future details, realizing this is fiscal year 26 detailed objectives. It might not be perfect.
Oh, yeah, because it's,
Some of these are fiscal year 27, again, 2030,
Right.
some of them, et cetera. I just wanted it noted for the citizens that do review that, yeah, we are going to be doing those. So whatever wording is in concert with the other formatting was what I was proposing.
These are the Cedar Falls is now pro roundabout constructions.
Kind of, so.
so item 8 is in the CIP, the Prairie Parkway and Green Hill Road,
9's on
Recommended
the
roundabout.
and 9's unfunded, so we've got them. So you're comfortable if we've got them elsewhere for now versus putting them in the goal document, or did you want them?
It's the same contention there. So yeah, we've got them elsewhere. So do we have these other 7
No, it's-
elsewhere? Why do we have them there?
Yeah, well, so we've got a motion and then to add these. And here just want to make sure they're visible as a reference. Is there a second?
Yeah, all-
Yeah.
Like-
right away.
I guess-
I don't know that we do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, but we don't have everything on here anyway, so what's? Whatever.
Are the other ones on here, Chase, all active?
1 through 9?
No,
But you
so
can't-
13, yeah, 1 through
What's that?
7.
Oh, 7.
So it's 1 through 9.
1 through.
Well, 8 and 9 are new
Yeah,
additions. So the current items that are part of it, 1 through 7.
Those are all going.
1's in there, 2's in there, 3's in there, 4's under construction, 5's under construction, 6's under construction, 7's ongoing. 8, 9, we just talked about.
But I guess why are we adding the, and I'm not, why are we specifically adding these 2 things to this list?
There's the other 7 in there.
Well, that's what I was asking, is like, are 1 through 7 more like current active projects versus adding 8 and 9 would be, these are further out projects? Because I think all the other ones are currently happening. Main Street's happening, Green Hill 58. Kind of happening in the sense that we're already working on the funding and working with contracts with DOT. 23rd Street's being designed, Ridgeway and 58's been under construction, Viking Road's been under construction. So I'm trying to say is 8 and 9 would be future projects that haven't even really started yet. Whereas to me, all these other ones are current, active.
And are they all of our current active?
But they've,
The two not, but I think the intent when this first started was these are the larger capital transportation projects. They're still, other ones outlined in CIP. They're trying to capture the big ones.
and they pertain to the A, right? Develop cooperative agreements with state agencies to improve the following streets using.
These are the big data.
Lots to do. whether they're cooperation, you and I, you and
Well, and remember, these were also ones that were talked about that specifically were identified to talk about a goal setting during the course of the year. So that's why,
mean, the very part, 7 or 8 and 9.
yes,
Well, let's leave them on here. I have no problem putting them on.
Yeah.
Just part of the unfunded list.
Because there are other road construction projects. Like this could get to be a really long list if we start just adding every project that.
Consistent.
It's not that big a deal.
It is,
That's the whole reason why we're sitting here all night.
Over time, that's how documents like this they'll get
Remember.
really
that page
convoluted.
is
It's-
Torn off in about 12 minutes.
So we have a motion. We'll just go to, again, we have a motion to add these two items. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All opposed, all consensus? So that motion is consensus
That felt
to add the
personal.
2 items. Okay, B, complete streets connections per agreements with, complete these street connections per agreements with developers on the following. So there's an item to add, connect round to Viking Road Shopping District. And then item E, 12th Street, we'll take these separately because they're separate conversations. So 5, connect round through Viking. Dustin, was that yours along with that?
that was the
Street
thing,
connections.
chat. Oh.
we must have got the whole version.
Well,
I didn't.
Only thing I would point out on that is this section is complete the street connections per agreements with developers. We do not have
Any dates on that?
any current agreement with the developer to connect round street.
That's fair.
So since we added that to the previous one, do you think we need this in?
No, and opposed.
B5,
I wasn't looking explicitly. But, 5 on that development.
or would be,
I'd like to see, so it was added in this spot because that's where it sits as a talking point, but I'd like to see that connection from Round down through to Viking. To incentivize development out of that Viking Plaza, as you named it, or it's named.
oh, sorry, the last one was the intersection. This is the full road.
Yeah.
A second on that?
Yeah.
Again, I would clarify, this section is complete the street connections per agreements with developers.
Yeah.
There is no agreement with the developer to build that road. There's no planned development. So right now, it would not to me fit under this section.
Yeah,
This is like, I feel like this is not, what's the goal of tonight's? I felt like, am I wrong in thinking that we were kind of cleaning up this document, but now we're adding? Like, this feels like previous full setting session.
We're going through, everyone highlighted changes they wanted, additions or removals. And so these are all things people recommended to remove, change, or delete from the code docs.
that's from the original meeting with Amy.
Yep.
On this whole process. We just never got to this section.
I understand that, but these were things that were submitted before we had those sessions.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I understand what we're.
Yep.
I'm not saying, I just want to make sure we're the intention for tonight.
I think they're two different things.
It's not.
Here's where I would put it in there. And I know it's not in the right spot because that development.
Danny, should we put number 5 as number 10 in section 13? If it's not funded, it's not, just like those other two, street improvement objectives. Why don't you move there?
Yeah, I know.
Develop cooperative agreements with state agencies to improve the streets.
I don't care where it goes. I
And
was
then,
just
and then
mentioning that
likewise, I'll
that
jump
would be a
ahead.
goal from my word is that we'd like to.
And then Danny, I would jump ahead to number D. 12th Street and Quail Ridge roundabout. That's a big one for the Quail Ridge, neighborhood. Have that intersection improved, because there's been a lot of close calls, and as I talk to more people there, I'm hearing many close calls that don't result in an accident to be reported, but people have near-death collisions with pedestrians. So putting that as number 11, under 13A.
So for the sake of time in discussing these, let's discuss them as, sounds like we want mention of them in here because they're priority or projects that specific individuals would like included, but we don't really quite know exactly where to put them. So I would say, let's discuss them as, it seems like the goal is to get them in the document, so they're referenced as a future goal. So if you want to include them somewhere in here, we can figure out where's the cleanest place to put them. But for now, let's discuss it as, do you want to support getting it included in this document?
Yes.
So first one is connecting round through Viking Road.
If we made that item D instead of number 5 underneath that developer agreement one,
Okay,
make it worded essentially as current fee. That.
so it'd just be under
you-
street
you
improvement
include that,
objectives.
yes, Street improvement intention to develop that plan, not for fiscal year 26, but develop the plan. So same page.
Okay.
That would be my proposal, is to move that as similarly worded as C and make it item D.
Yep, okay.
G is 12.
I don't want to come off that I'm anti that proposed connection, but there are things in place where that would be developed when that. So I guess that's where I'm confused. We do have a policy in place that would be developed when the land is developed. So that's, I guess, where I'm,
But it didn't.
but it, what do you mean it didn't?
It didn't get developed and it.
So I think what Kelly's saying is connect round through to Viking Road is really gonna be a developer responsibility. And so maybe it is under the right spot under B, because it complete the street connections per agreement with developers. So if we come to a development agreement, that would be the right spot for that.
Okay, that's just great.
Yeah,
That's, sounds good.
oh,
So the question is, does everybody want to include that?
Leave
In
it
this
where it
list
is.
here.
I accept motion that.
not hurting anything.
So the motion is to improve it,
Yep.
include it,
All right.
excuse me,
Yep.
all those in favor?
Yep.
Okay, and move to item D, 12th Street and Quail Ridge, same conversation. It's kind of just putting it in there as an item
Well,
that,
the thought and the conversation has been that if we're going to do, is the park there, Birdsall? And revamp Birdsall and have more sporting events or more park amenities, that the traffic will be more, get Quail Ridge and Lexington Heights, they come down and want to go into the park, put a roundabout in there. There's speeding concerns. I got another one yesterday. Chase, thank you for getting that study information. You know, citizens want to just put a 25-mile-an-hour sign on it. I'm like, well, that ain't gonna work. But then the fact that we have incidents of accidents and near collisions. And year and a half ago or so, we had a lady sitting going westbound and the dump trucks passed her on the left while she was waiting for somebody to walk across in front of the vehicle. And had that individual been a little bit further, it was knocked by the dump truck. And that intersection needs to be improved in some way. If there's a safety element that we could bring out, get grants or funding. But I think 12th and Quail, we need to seriously look at a roundabout to moderate the speed, improve safety, and help enhance with the park improvements that would like to come. So that's the whole ball accent.
So Jason, this isn't on the CIP current,
Or no, correct, it's not programmed anyway, pavement man plan or, CIP. To my knowledge, I looked again today, I don't, Frank can probably correct me maybe, but I turned on the DOT site for the last 11 years. There hasn't even been an accident at that intersection.
Oh, we
I
had
go back in on that bike.
Trucks up in front of the pheasant.
That was up by the golf course.
Yeah, my signing was on roads.
Compared to other-
That was
There's been-
Pleasant Ridge.
There's been a couple up there, there's been one at Lexington, there's one been in between Barnett and Quail Ridge entrance, but there hasn't been specifically one at the intersection of the place.
Well, we gotta wait till someone gets killed. Walk across to the park, that we know we're gonna improve.
I'd say my answer to that would be is, I mean, we can't fix every intersection all at once, so you're always gonna improve the ones that have more safety data
My
approved.
recommendation is if there's a future planning, master planning study for the park improvements, that can be considered at that time, that, development of the master plan will generate traffic volumes and different safety improvements, then that would be the time to potentially do their section project.
And I mean, I also think it is worth considering as developments increase and we just have, you know, these roads that are just these long straight roads that used to just go out to one tiny little neighborhood, like that road, that then we should consider
Yeah.
alternative ways to try to slow the traffic, such as back down,
We got West Fork and Lexington and
you know,
So before we get into too much of a rabbit hole for this, do we want to include this intersection on this?
Yeah.
CIP document today?
it's a
Well, we know you're a yes, you put it
it's a
in.
placeholder.
I think that I like the idea of including it as a part of like a greater picture to say, you know, like that, I mean, obviously, we're already talking about this, but maybe we can take what Chase just said and make it more general. To say like as new, whatever, I think we're already doing that, but I think it's good, you know, like as the parks plan is developed and new infrastructure is put in place, we will update the map, whatever that word was that he just said, to include looking at changes needed for safety.
So I would say it's something we already do and it's probably said somewhere in here. I don't think that's a new item.
Like, place to play, we evaluated the parking and how clustered that got in there.
So then do we need to say it? Since we know we're gonna do it.
It's similar to any other development. When they come in, they do a traffic impact study, they'll reference, need to add turn lanes or need to add safety improvements. So that would happen when we did a master plan for Brooksville, if that were to take place.
Is that, well, that's, what's it called? The survey's called? What? Traffic study?
Traffic study,
No. The survey's called,
the parks master plan?
yeah, well, it's the survey's called something else.
Oh.
Something play. It's called
Your
your city, your park. And that's where I'm hearing the concern for that intersection to go across from Quail Ridge where there's lots of little kids going across to a park, play softball.
We haven't gotten the results from that survey yet.
I'm hearing it
Like
from the
big
people.
response to this.
So,
So again, keep us on tracks. We're at 7 and we're not leaving. Well, one, we have at most half an hour is the furthest, the longest we will go. You know, it's gonna anticipate. So we have a motion to put this on, included in here. I think there's more conversation about other ways it's being looked at, but for tonight, do we want to include it in the document?
No,
see, as advised by the master plan.
What was that?
As advised by the parks plan, we'll be okay to respond after that.
Are
Leave
you,
it up.
okay. So is there a second to put it on? Okay, sorry, Daryl. All right, goal 5. Item 3, development minimum right of way tree plantings for new developments, especially residential. City will consider granting trees from in-house nursery. Does anybody remember who?
But you,
Yeah.
that sounds like.
Do we want, oh, yeah, great. I mean, I didn't want to do that.
So that'd be a direction to staff to kind of look at a new right of way tree planting requirement.
Do we need to do this because will this not be included in one of the other things that we're doing?
It's like part of the overall,
We already have this in place, the greenery point system, what's it called?
I don't think there's anything for residential. You don't have to have for a residential house. For commercial, you would.
And I honestly don't know about the legality of this, whether we can force residential to put in 6 trees per acre or what. So maybe it should have been, explore developing a minimum requirement.
And
Would that be less threatening
Well, it should be-
for, a lawsuit?
You wanted to say for new residential development.
First briefly, there's a lot of communities that have such
That's-
requirement.
Okay, that's kind of what I'd like. You know, you see no tree canopy in the new residential developments, and I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
And we've got a nursery that obviously we probably already have prescribed what we're doing with most of those trees, so I should have put city may explore or consider granting trees. We probably don't have the big stock.
Don't think we're.
All right, so I was a little.
Get to work it, Chase.
Game on the proposal, but that's kind of my intention is to establish a minimum tree planting plan.
So strike the city will consider, because we won't really.
And you put a period as we develop.
Why don't you say,
Well, and I guess if you want especially residential, that's fine.
why don't you say tree plantings for residential developments?
So they would do development minimum right of way tree plantings for
Yeah.
new residential developments.
Yeah,
You don't have to say especially, because it
Yep.
already said we got commercial. You're right.
So
Right.
the amendment accept.
Okay,
Second.
We're always conversations.
thumbs up for the amendment.
About, like
Yep.
saying
Hold on.
requiring people to have parks in their like development and so is that not,
New residential.
would that not be included in like looking at our code as a whole?
Develop minimum.
I think this would be part of, I mean, if we're gonna go through looking at everything, it'll be part of it. But this is giving specific direction that we want to see that included in, well, you're not saying right now this has to be done, but it's saying it's in this year's goals is to,
So develop.
Develop a minimum. And Stephanie, you did say we can develop a minimum without threat of, so we don't have to just explore. Jen. It'll be as written minus the city will consider granting tree.
Right.
And move residential.
Yeah, because we can't tell you have to plant a tree in your backyard.
Right.
But the right of way is
You
something
can,
good.
you can develop an ordinance that would require, just like there's a point system for commercial.
So then,
You could say, hey, new residential lots, you need to have a minimum of 2 trees on there.
That's the way to go about it. Sure, okay, we'll just put it in, it's a goal, and we, and when we develop, or when we go through and.
Put some biodiversity. My understanding.
and I think that's the devil's in the details is that specific. Basically, how do
We
we-
have. Which I do.
Yeah, all right, so the motion is develop minimum right of way tree plantings for new residential developments. And then all thumbs up, anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, consensus. Detailed objectives, 1, continue planning for Hearst Center expansion relocation. No,
Big enough that we should be.
don't say any reason to, I mean, we'll be talking budget and everything.
I'm not seeing a reason for any of the highlighting. Yeah.
Okay, and then, yeah, continue to use the recreation operation facilities needs assessment. Anyone there that,
that I highlighted that and that to change it to say continue to use blah blah and assess community needs and facility usage to determine opportunities for expanding recreation facilities, recreation and fitness amenities.
so it's kind of adding a piece to also continue reviewing new based on user demand,
Right,
new things.
not just the assessment,
2018.
2018.
No, we don't know that exact wording, but main point is to add and continuing to review future needs and look at adding.
Well, I was discussing in the,
Assessing.
in the free form essay portion of the My City, My Parks, there could be some people, specifically Mr. Maloney, that might say, hey, we want changes at the rec too. So we could take that under advisement.
So there's a motion to add that general piece, or a second? Second, any,
The requirement, CFD, right?
To expand the, to expand the goal to include.
you just want to read it through one more time?
Continue to use the recreation and fitness center operations and facilities needs assessment and assess community needs and facility usage to determine opportunities for expanding recreation and fitness amenities.
Any discussion on
Can you
that?
send that to Jen?
Okay, well,
Yes.
It's a,
Okay.
so I wrote down Hannah's wording. Perfect.
any discussion concerned with that?
That's fine.
Otherwise, all those in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, Hannah will send that over. Implement, number 3, implement when financially feasible and enhance riverfront as an attraction, as a visitor attraction consistent with the northern Cedar Parks and Northern Cedar Falls Park and Maintenance Plan, CFD 8602.
I said, should this move to long-term goals, change to continue to enhance? Because we enhanced the riverfront as a visitor attraction. But are we going to, now we're continuing to enhance?
I can hear them.
Yeah.
Both changes.
So it'd be continue to.
Yeah.
Enhance when financially, or continue to implement when financially feasible, enhance riverfront,
Can't move it up to, item
for long-term goals.
Yeah.
move it beef more.
All right, so we have a motion. I'll take that as a second.
Yep.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed? All right, continue. All right, item 5, assist in the solicitation of grants and development of the Cedar River, including dam safety improvements, riverbank improvements, and recreational features.
Yes.
Sure.
Felt that.
Any changes to that? Or just good believe it? Discussion? Okay. Next page, item 11, identify trails most appropriate for winter snow removal and inform the public via an annually published trail and bus bench snow removal map, CFD 4403. I think this is specifically for which trails we clear as, that we commit to clearing as.
It's in the currents, right?
It's on fire.
Yep. Okay,
As a sidebar, the newly developed snow buddies, would that be incorporated into this advisement? Once it exists?
All snow buddies.
Sure. Like, I mean, we want our residents to know how to sign up for snow buddies. Is that gonna be an initiative for the bike and ped committee?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Moving on.
okay, everyone good there? All right, 14, encourage private development for an official Independence Day fireworks display. Check, we did it.
And
Um,
I recommended continue the non-monetary support of the official Independence Day fireworks display, although I think we should remove Independence Day fireworks display. I think we should just say Cedar Falls.
an official city fireworks display.
Yeah.
I will say there was recommendations both to financially support it more from the city and to explicitly not support it at all from the city. I think there's good private support for it, so intend to fundraise for all of it. So if everyone's comfortable, I would say reword it to where I go here. Continue to support development or continue to support official city fireworks display.
Do you want to say non-monetary? Or is that too limiting? I just feel like, well, people really have very strong opinions about it, and we are already talking about our budget so much.
So a motion would be to continue support for a official Cedar Falls City fireworks display.
I get friend Independence Day, we're moving to start it.
For a second, all those in favor? Opposed? That 17, develop and design and develop, and the addition is to and implement facility improvements of various city parks. Again, Hannah, I believe, put this in because now that we're doing the plan, it's just add and implement.
Yeah, I mean, I had way a prettier sentence, it's fine.
Yeah. Do we need any kind of a, when feasible, or we understand that we're not gonna implement all the changes in fiscal year 27?
That's always the case. We have to
That's a
vote
goal.
on every dime that we spend. So,
Yeah, so I would, yep. So anyone opposed to that addition of and implement? All right. Census, 20, consider potential for new quality of life projects. This whole section, I think was kind of highlighted partly because this was kind of here's our, what's the word you use? Pet list or pet projects list of things. Does this really need to? Because pickleball courts got done, Bertzel renovations in the CIP. Eco Loop, I don't think is even really a active consideration. It's an idea.
Well, now that we don't know what's happening with the railroad, it's be a different discussion, but this was the pet project list added by, hey, that Howard. Engineer.
Past
That's fine.
individuals. So do you guys want to leave this
I say leave 20, but get rid of the list.
Yeah,
There you go.
perfect.
Well, public looking at that and saying, well, what stuff it is. I don't know if there's.
You want my campground gone, Aaron?
I actually had moved campground to 5C3,
Where?
but.
Where?
5C3. What is that?
Don't make us go.
I know, I'm so sorry. Let's see, that is.
Are you, Aaron, you're proposing striking A through F?
Yeah, I don't know that we need a list there. I mean, that's all. Me, it's just a reminder that
VIP.
we need to consider to keep looking at quality of life.
Oh, that's part of the approved enhanced riverfront.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, because that to me, the unfunded CIP was the pet project list, like that's where
Right.
things go.
Yep.
Like does need to be in,
And this is the meetings in which we determine what goes on that unfunded.
yeah,
So we don't need it in the document. It's
because the campground's in the unfunded.
just how many wants
It
to
is.
build.
yeah, campground will be unfunded.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, campground goes on.
So maybe consider potential for new quality of life projects based on CIP, so at least there's a arrow saying, look at CIP.
Because that's subservient to this. So.
Circular logic. You should love that as a programming.
Clean up this document, make it a little more sensible, kind of a bulleted list, like it used to be, a little more easy to understand. Beyond the go,
I don't think Ron agrees with
the
that.
dinosaurs roam the earth.
So quick,
While developing the CAD. Like, is that what you were saying to tie it back to the CAD?
it's true, while developing the CIP. Or as part of the CIP,
well, let's
or do you guys just want to remove the list and just,
remove the list, but I do want to say that F, Historic Reconnaissance Survey of Overland Park Neighborhood. The survey is surveyed.
Done.
And so now they'll come back with their findings. So I had to create a goal to support the findings. Or review or whatever, however you want to say that, but just because they put the work in, I think we should include it as a goal. So it could be 20, or 20 to 21. That's like what I'm just getting all.
well, I guess we have a 21. It's considered funding for quality of life projects with other entities.
Let's get some pep, people.
We're not done yet.
See,
Come on.
We're losing interest. We got to finish.
Now it's hard for me to follow.
Daryl
Not
gave up. You
coming
get
back
out of
for
here.
an eighth night.
And we still have something quick that we have to do after this, so.
What's that?
So are we, so if we're not saying 20, we should also not say 21.
21.
And then I think we should add a 22, or if you want to rethink, it's fine, that says
To implement the service.
support the findings of the Historic Reconnaissance Survey.
But you scrap 20 altogether or just the list?
That's what we're debating still. It's a conglomerate of factors.
So do,
If
we
you want to
would-
get rid of the list, you don't want specific support to fund it.
By the findings,
Findings.
but because, yes, no, we do, because that is not a potential new quality of life project. That is an in-flight project. So we've included all of our other in-flight projects.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to include,
How would you word that inclusion? Let's just support executing,
support the findings or support the
well,
Support the
potential.
findings of the historic. reconnaissance
Review and-
survey
Yeah.
of Overland Park neighborhood.
yeah. Put
So
Hannah's
review and support the
comment as
findings.
20 and move 20 to 21. Get rid of 20 and 21.
So the proposal was just to eliminate the list, leave the item 20. So we would have an item 20 that says, consider potential for new quality of life projects, period.
21 says consider funding from other entities, period, and then 22 says support the findings of the historic land funds. Reconnaissance.
Yeah,
You could put there, you could squeeze it to 19, that money. Remember.
No,
That's spelled.
Reconnaissance. I know. The only pushback I'd give Aaron is 20 as a standalone is included in the heading of goal number 5. Right? These are quality of
That
life.
means we really mean it.
Well, I guess it could. To
double
double down,
down,
duly noted.
double down.
So quick, just to
Paper, bro.
so quick to recap this, make sure all, so we're removing the list from under item 20.
Yep.
You want to oppose that? Okay, so we're leaving item 20, but removing the list. Item 21. Are we doing the same, or do we just strike that because is that kind of considered as part of 20, considered potential for new quality of life projects?
I think
Covered
it's
under our
one.
financial plan.
Strike it.
Yeah, sorry.
So I think strike 21.
Yep.
And then adding an item that says review and support the
Findings of the historic reconnaissance survey.
things of
I Googled it, that's the
I had to screw up my head.
historic
lots of letters in there that cover the
reconnaissance.
Recon
So the
survey, the Overland Park.
sort of the Overman
Danny's writing it down too, so if he takes me a little longer.
Park. You just know this how long it takes me because when you're waiting. Okay, so we had consensus to support putting that in,
Yes.
or anyone opposed to it?
Where did you go?
Not a.
Okay. Jen, we made it through the goal document.
Ah,
Shy of 8 o'clock.
12 minutes.
All right, we got 12 minutes. Main thing was just to make sure all the priority items that have been talked about previously, just that we had them in there and kind of looking at what we got for priorities this year that we know we'll be bringing back to likely the council in some form, a goal setting, work session, not goal setting, work session, committee meeting. Not saying these have to have a committee meeting or work session, but these were just some of the ones that got brought up. So we had rec center, expanded rec facilities, reviewing that as part of also the tourism study that they're working on. Snow removal, trouble spots, that's something staff's working on those areas that maybe are difficult to enforce because of physical makeup and all that. Pre-approved home designs, mobile home park ownership options. That's one where I think where we left it is we're waiting to hear back from the guy from Des Moines. To see if there's any additional information there or next steps based on if the ownership changes hands and things. So that one is kind of it was talked about, so it's in there, but we're kind of waiting to get more information. But keeping an eye on it. Child care resource information. We did have that information session with child care resource and referral. Figure I might just talk with you sometime. And maybe we get together with Mary from child care resource and just see what are maybe some additional things that we can,
Maybe with some staff.
yep.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah. These were the existing items and referrals that are kind of already on the docket. So we have the budget, obviously, we'll have coming up several work sessions and committee meetings and council meetings. Major thoroughfare plan in March, College Hill Vision zoning, that feedback in March, refuse rate study in March, paid parking is likely just in the spring. You guys know where we're kind of at, waiting for some additional things to happen there. Strategic plan update in the spring that we're working on launching here probably this week for starting the public survey process. Land use accountability permit, applicability criteria. Daryl, that's kind of from what you brought up a while back of looking at how do we actually designate that, look at that and get it through the application or the approval process. ADUs, you guys referred that for discussion in May. And then the vape, tobacco, CBD liquor, all of that. So that would be after the ADU discussion's completed, which would take about 2 to 3 months for just staff doing the preparation work, reviewing other places, what it needs to be worded as. Then obviously everything for P and Z and all that. And these are just all the proposed timelines right now. All of this can change based on our priorities, how things go. So then the boat, RV, trailer parking, grass, rear side yards, that was looking at May too. Getting based on how in depth we get it, reviewing the overall ordinances and.
question. Why would we need to have vape, tobacco, CBD after ADU? Like, that seems like a very narrow topic.
Staff workload. Just when we'd have time to,
The other thing is you specifically identified May is when we would do ADUs. And so as we look at the other ones,
Okay.
we inserted ADUs there because in the motion, it was specifically said May.
An ADU requires.
so again, this is all just draft timelines based on what we've kind of heard.
Working on the vape lighting standards already.
So Kevin,
Yeah, go ahead.
in planning are working on and doing some research. And so unfortunately, a lot of these take a lot of time for research, and so, yes.
Okay.
And, you know, if we run into a snag on something, one may jump ahead of the other ones, but this is kind of what we have laid out for at least the first part of this year.
Or if this group wanted to
Yep.
push and say, we do want this before this.
No, I'm fine with this. Timeline.
Not the time will fly, so we could, yeah.
Time will
Time
fly.
will fly.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the last one, not arguing for any major shifts, but in the vein of people bringing stuff out of storage early in the spring. May, with any potential ordinance changes, delaying it another month and a half after that. Is there anything, like, is that a grand sweeping thing, or did we find that we don't currently state anything? Or have we not found yet the definitive answer on that bottom item?
Well, we don't allow, parking on the grass in the rear yard. So if we want to allow that, we can address
So we did find in the ordinance where that's outlawed,
if the parking needs to be on a paved surface.
in the side yard, next to the garage, but we didn't.
Parking has to be on a paved surface.
I think that was what that's what we were talking about last time we chatted. I just want to make sure we have that separately stated, that in any part of your yard, it has to be on a paved surface. Because the only place where it existed was in that rental code about the side bump out parking.
Definitions about parking, I believe, being on have to park a motor vehicle on a paved surface.
Okay, so it would include those 3 readings in any of those pushes.
But both, this, trailer is in a motor vehicle.
Was that?
It says no more than one of these implements can be parked there currently. So my whole question was about the timeline there. So we have found it's not as moot point as we had maybe mentioned back in November. So could we expedite that so that the ordinance change would happen before people are moving their stuff out of storage potentially? Because I guess my only push.
Spring happens every year.
That's true.
Well, if I remember, so was what we were wanting to look at was allowing it? Is that what we're looking to change, is to allow the side yard
We
parking?
assume that it is allowed.
Or not side yard, but
People doing it, regular basis.
There's a lot of discussion on that side of things, but we only cite people if they are parking illegally as defined in their side yard. There's a lot of rear yard parking, which we aren't enforcing or citing for, and that was the speculation was, is that legal or not? And if not, make it so. If we're silent on it, it's legal. But it sounds like it's defined, saying, no, you're not allowed to park there, you have to have it unpaved. And the only place you're allowed to pave is right next to your driveway, or right next to your garage, so it kind of is. Anyway.
So I think the question is, do you want to move it up, or do you
That's
want to?
kind of what I was thinking, but again, to Aaron's point, rain comes every year. Well, it's another couple months. If we've got too much already on your plates, let's get through the tasks at hand.
Okay, more fun. Look at this. Council
oh,
email.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, look at
Hey.
this.
Positive. Is it on the website now?
I think we were waiting to get.
Oh, thumbs up.
Didn't even give a drum roll.
I did the cheer thing, but whatever.
That's true. We drum rolled.
Yeah.
I'm trying to allow you to be excited.
So we are able to make it work. So there will be, we can add onto, on the city council page on the website, there will be a button that kind of like right now, they fill out a form, just send an email. They'll still fill out the form and then it'll send to everybody's email. Everyone's current email, including like your, not city one. So separate discussion, if we want to talk about everyone using their city emails, that can be had separately. We will at least be able to just get a form on there that everyone can send an email to all council members at once.
What does it say, and list each of our phone numbers and emails separately, so it doesn't.
So the reason we don't do that, looked into that, is explicitly because if our emails are listed on the website, they can be scraped. And you will start getting a bunch of spam emails and and I did review this, it is standard practice with other cities. They have contact forms instead of listing. So that our emails can't be automatically scraped and just used in all the spam bots and all the, and that is the thing that is in our cybersecurity standards, is that's a recommended standard.
Okay.
So that our city email
So is
or
there a
our
way that they-
contacts.
Uncover, like, click it and open it up and see what it is, but then the spam bot will do that too?
Yeah, because anyway, if it's on a page, they'll be able to reference it. So that doesn't still address that issue, but this, the one goal I was trying to solve right away was, let's get everybody at least a way to email all of us at once with a single contact form, because I know that was a point of conflict. So we solved that with this. They'll go to the city council the page, not Facebook, sorry, just the page on the website. And it'll have it right on there for contact all council members.
And the same thing with the phone number. It's great, and then we get telemarketing calls.
That is easier because they don't send automated calls like they do spam emails and phishing emails. It's a lot easier to automate. I mean, you still do, but it's just a lot easier to automate phishing emails in those schemes than calls.
You know, you get a call, you answer it, and there's a long pause before a human answers. The computer is saying, oh, we got a sucker,
Mm-hmm.
answer.
So the one goal was solve, making sure residents can just click a button, email all of us. So that's been taken care of. Doesn't solve everything, but it solves that.
What is this
That's-
picture?
I was gonna say, this looks like a dated picture.
What's this picture?
Is that even me in the middle?
No, that's not you. That's Rob and that's.
Jen, that's not the one we have on the website.
That's Dave and.
that
All right,
might-
we gotta get that
might
fixed.
even be that might be Jackie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Preferably put our,
Definitely the one that's on
Get an older one, come on.
there. No, he's not even. sent it.
preferably use our sweater one,
There you go.
if we could, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
sweater pick.
Okay, anything else for tonight?
Mayor, I just want to point out that last slide though, about the email, about the part that it does not solve the FOIA request.
Yes, so it's,
We solved the issue of they can do a form to email everybody, but the whole concern of it is someone's still responsibility if they're an external email.
Yep.
There's a FOIA request,
so they, like,
this will solve that. It's like-
yep, so it's still a completely separate conversation if you guys want to look at requiring everyone to list their city email. Remember, Daryl? Just kidding. But our goal was to solve residents being able to email all of us at once, so that was taken care of.
Great job, everybody.
Deal with the other stuff later. All right, I think we already lost half the group, so.
I'm listening.
This is
Sorry, I
Thank you.
did it 5:30 this morning to be here, so I'm not being petty if they want, but I'm ready for.
You were plenty peppy for
So I
me.
don't want to hear anything else the whole rest of the year then. No other remaining.
And the record shows that nobody said any other discussions.
Well, I won't be scheduling an ongoing meeting then.
Hannah still has the list.
I still have an entire list, Ron. We've already got our
Oh,
meeting
no.
scheduled, so.
All right, we're out of these. Meeting adjourned.